Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Player to Prospect podcast. As you can see, our guest today is Seth Etherton. He's a pitching coach at the University of Southern California. And let me just say this, guys, this guy has walked the walk, so he can definitely talk the talk. And I'm excited for you guys to listen to the episode today. So without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Seth Etherton. Where we were just talking about is a great place to start because it not only applies to this applies to young players, it applies to the parents of those players, and then it applies to coaches, maybe even young coaches who haven't even thought about this stuff. Just that idea, and you can talk about it, you can elaborate on it a lot more, but I'll just bring it up. The idea of like focusing on the finer details, especially when you're transitioning from high school to college, I feel like that is something that it took me time to learn. And then once I did, I thought to myself, oh my God, I have this sense of assurance in what I'm doing and confidence with how well I'm doing my work.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know when I learned that or how I learned that, but I know that I learned that and that it was important. So yeah, let's just talk about that and kind of what you were telling your players, like you said, a couple what was it days ago, maybe in this first
Yeah, a
meeting.
couple of days. We had our first pitcher catchers meetings, and I just want to establish things really early. And
Mm,
I think my biggest point for them was just having them understand that this is about them. It's their career. My days are over. I can't do this anymore. I'm just fortunate enough to be here and to help coach them and hopefully teach them really who they are. I think that's kind of the biggest deal of going to my 10th year of coaching. 7 years professionally, and now here I am in my fourth year. Actually, it's my 11th year. So it's just one of those things where, as a player, I played for a while, collegially and professionally. That the biggest transition for me is really understanding who I was. That was it.
mm,
No one ever taught me like how to do certain things, and I learned through a ton of failures. And that I think that's probably the main point I want to get across to these young men is that this is your career. I'm here to help you with that. I'm a soundboard. I'm here to offer suggestions. I will never tell you what to do
mm,
because I've had those coaches that told me what to do, and it never works. My principles of being a coach for them is, hey, number one, we have to establish a really strong, trustworthy relationship. If we have that, man, those gates open, you're open ears, you trust me, I trust you. You can say anything to me, I can say anything to you. It's black and white. Here it is. There's no
mm,
confusion. We're going to set standards, and you're going to understand exactly where I'm coming from, and I'll know exactly where you're coming from. But the key with all this is just talk to me. And throughout my career and my failures and my successes on the field, off the field, gentlemen, I've been through what you've been through. I want you to understand I'm relevant still. I retired playing 10 years ago. I'm 46 years old. I'm married with 4 children. My son's a freshman here at USC this year. I have a 3-year-old son, a 6-year-old son, and a 14-year-old daughter. I said, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a Christian. I'm a baseball player. I'm a baseball coach. I'm here to help you. I'm here, that servant mentality. I want to serve you guys and help you as best I can, but I need you to take control of your career. And we get into the fine details. I mean, this thing can spider web everywhere, but
yeah.
with Coach Stankwitz and Jewett and the rest of the staff, they talk about maintain your locker. We try to bring that professional mentality to our guys. Like, guys, be a professional. How you look, how you dress, how you carry yourselves. And when you get out of your car to the time you get back in your car, what do you look like? You're being evaluated. I think that's a really good message for these young men or these kids, I should say, in high school, because they'll roll up in parking lots. And they think that no one's there. Well, do you know what? People are there.
Hmm.
Fine detail. Get out of that car with your looking like a baseball player so we can assume that you're a baseball player. Don't look like a punk. Don't do that. It's only going to hurt you, and these are things that you just kind of learn along the way and get back to the locker. Take care of your locker. It's important. Be organized. Look like a professional. Act like one. You're not yet, but when you get there, it'll make that transition a lot easier. Um,
Oh yeah, well.
it's one thing that we do here at SC in our weight room. It's enormous, but it is immaculate, and they hold it to a high standard. How every weight is re-racked, how every kettlebell's turned, how everything's pristine. And then we have 32 racks in there with all kinds of bells and whistles everywhere. But you go in there after 450 to 500 student athletes have gone in there in a day. Doesn't smell like a gym. Doesn't look like it's been disheveled. Doesn't look like things have been used, because they're held to a standard, and they maintain the fine details. And I think as we kind of get into the baseball side, I look at it from the other side as well. As I'm a true believer that the best students in the classroom will be the best athletes on the field. And it could be cliche, but I've noticed it throughout my time. And why? Because they're more prepared, they're more organized, they know how to take care of their time, and they're goal oriented. They want good grades so they can progress. They want to be good on the field, so they prepare themselves, and they have goals every day, and they do those things. So there's so many ways to go about this, but those fine details are really, really important. And we talk about accountability and respect towards each other, and leadership. I expect, I have a staff of 21, 22 pitchers right now. I expect them all to be leaders. A senior can hold a freshman, a freshman can hold a senior, fifth year, seventh year, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. We have a certain way we do things here that's not held to that standard. Those young men need to be told and understand that it's because we have that standard and it needs to be held up. So
I want to go back to the sort of point that I made about how it's really important for high schoolers to learn this and make this transition as quick as possible when going to college. I find it, or I have found it in my experience, still pretty difficult for a freshman to be able to hold a senior accountable or be expected to, like speak up and exemplify some leadership too. Is that something you guys make it very clear that they're allowed to do? Do you expect that out of them? Would you promote that out of them even? Because I would imagine some players might take that not the wrong way, but they might see it as something that is unexpected or out of line even.
Sure.
And I'm mainly thinking about like the clubhouse chemistry or culture, the buzzword culture, right? Of trying to maintain both like a level playing field where there's no hierarchy between players, but also a sense of, okay, yeah, like this guy, he's teaching me the way because he's been around longer or because he's had success, and I'm a new guy coming in and I don't want to step all over his toes because he's earned his stripes and I haven't yet. You know what I mean?
No doubt. I think there is that fine line. I even spoke
Yeah.
to a fifth year transfer yesterday about it. He's like, I'm not real comfortable saying anything yet. I've been here for 3 days. I'm like, I get it. And, there is that fine line. I understand where a freshman may feel a little uneasy to say something to an upperclassman or even to someone who's just a year older, or even a new teammate he doesn't even really know yet. That's fine. But understand that you have the green light to do so. And my issue is that if the person that you're calling out or trying to build up with, positivity or respect, we're not going to do anything disrespectful. It's like, hey, your locker's dirty. Hey, let's put your shoes in your locker. Don't forget that. It's not putting them down. It's like, just a reminder, buddy. Hey, some may take offense to it, but ultimately, who's at offense here? It's the person who hasn't done their job.
Yeah.
If they have a problem with it, then that's their problem. It's not the person who calls them out, because, hey, that's the integrity part of it. And accepting your failures or whatever it is, and understand that, hey, you messed up, just own it. And that's the other part of this. We're gonna, as baseball, as we all know, you're gonna fail some days, a lot of days, and you can be terrible some days. Gentlemen, we all do. They all do. But how do we limit those days? That's probably the most important thing. How do we limit? How do we learn from what we've done? How we failed? How we stunk? There's no excuses. And I tell them, one of the biggest, the best weapons people have is that index finger. So it's real easy to do this, boys. It's so easy. But when this thing starts to turn towards you, it's tough. And I've had to learn that throughout. Yeah, it's tough. And the sooner you're able to accept that, you go, man, you know what? I stunk today. It's okay. But this is what I did well. But this is how I'm going to get better. And these are my work-ons. And so it's just, we start establishing this culture here of toughness. Accountability is big for us, but realistically, it has to be done within the team, has to be done within my pitching staff, our pitching staff. I'll retract that. It's not mine, it's ours. And I made that very clear to them. They all have a voice. It's ours, and they lead the way. But they just need to know that they have a voice and they need to hold each other accountable. I kind of use that kind of like that police each other like through like a jail system. You know how like the inner workings of a jail system. It's the inmates that kind of like patrol things, and that's kind of how it
Yeah.
is. I'm one guy that can't watch 22. So if we
Yeah.
have
The
everyone
warden.
looking out for each other and taking care of each other, we're good. And I
Hmm.
think that's what really happened last year as this everything the tide kind of shifted for us. Everyone was kind of on each other, and there's always these checkpoints and guys checking each other. It's like, okay, we got something, fellas.
Hmm.
Now we're really starting to buy in and understand exactly what we're trying to do, what our goals are. And that's all we're trying to do right now is just have these young men understand this is what's going to happen.
It does take a certain level of maturity or at least an awareness to acknowledge that when someone is getting on you about you slacking off in some area, example, your locker's messy. It takes a level of maturity for you to go, oh, he's not getting on me. He's not attacking me.
Yep.
It's just the thing that I've done. And he's just looking out for me. He's just trying to make sure that we maintain a standard that is what we all agreed upon beforehand. You know,
Yes.
we're doing this for the team. And if I'm not carrying my weight, he's getting on me, not to get on me, but to help the team. And
Not a personal attack by any means. You're
and
right.
so many
Yeah.
times I feel like we see an inability to dissociate from the personal ego attack to no, I'm looking out for you and I'm helping you actually.
Mhm.
Like you need to get that through your thick skull that I'm helping you
That's
here,
right.
you know? But then
That's right.
again, it's kind of hard for like 19 to 22-year-olds to communicate that effectively to their peers as well. So and maybe even in retrospect, I probably didn't even realize that that was what was going on a lot of the time, or I didn't even enforce it that much because I didn't want to
Mhm.
get on a guy and get too personal. But I would imagine it's a lot easier when you can just say, guys, you have the green light, do it. Do it. You all know, I'm letting you know right now. This is all like you get on a guy, it's not because of you. It's because we're all looking out for each other.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. And for me, I fail all the time at home, and things I need to do. My wife reminds me, and thank goodness I have an amazing wife because she's one that, hey, Seth, you forgot. Ah, dang it. Before I used to get really upset. It's like, don't blame, it's like, it's just a maturity level thing. And,
Yeah.
you get to that point where, hey, own it, take care of it, learn from it. And now we get better.
And you said the tides turned a little bit this past year. Can you talk
Mhm.
about that and like where you saw maybe the most crucial tides of turning?
Yeah, I think Coach Stankiewicz and Jewett and Jenkins and Coach Brown. We
Mm,
have a standard in which we do things. Number one is the education. These players need to go to school. They need to go to class. You're not going to miss class to go to practice. That's not going to happen. You're going to
mm,
go to class, and we expect a high level. We expect a 3.0 as a team. As a team, and if you don't have a 3.0, no matter if you're a fifth year senior, you're a freshman. If you don't have a 3.0 that semester, you're in study hall. You're in study
yep.
hall. It doesn't
Yep.
matter.
Yeah.
It's study hall. So now we talk about organization. So now they're like, oh wow, they're really not messing around here. And when they do slip up, we're on it. They go, yep, okay, well, I'm in trouble now. So yeah, so they learn. So they're now starting to learn. Now they know, from the pitching side of things, when they come in, they don't communicate as well, or I see them dogging on some sort of conditioning, whatever it is.
Mm,
All right, that's everyone. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
mm,
And it's like, uh-oh, I'm not sliding by here. I can't slack. I gotta hold, like you said before, hold your weight and do things the right way for this pitching staff, for
mhm,
this team. And that's our responsibility is hold these guys accountable for what we want as a group. And if we want to be the best team in the nation, which we're striving for, we got to do everything the right way. And there's no slacking off. And we're just as accountable as the players, as long, and that's the way it should be. Everyone's accountable for
mhm,
what they need to do. And with that gains respect. We're not dictators here. We're here to help them and guide them and teach them and develop them into great young men, great young ball players
mhm,
for their future and career. In the meantime, we're going to win, and we're going to win a lot. We want to win national championships. That's our goal. But as
mhm.
soon as they leave USC and they're part of our program here, they're going to be great young men who are established and know themselves better than anybody else.
And it's funny how those are almost one and the same. How, yeah, like you were talking about the best players usually are the better students.
Mhm.
They're usually, holding themselves accountable the best. They're usually very professional when talking to strangers and, polite and cordial
Yes.
and all those good things. And yeah, I just think it's so important because this ties into recruiting for the high schoolers to learn this like before they even show up to campus, because you guys actually have to evaluate them based on those things as well, as opposed
Yes.
to, oh, what can they do on the field? I've heard so many coaches to this point go, yeah, we can all identify who, is a great player. Like, oh, we see
Mhm.
that one guy make that diving catch or hit a home run. We're like, nice. We love that. Great. All right. That's step one.
Yeah.
What else does he got?
Yep.
What kind of guy is he?
That's
Like,
right.
like when you come into our program, how are you going to affect, everything outside of what goes on between the lines? And I don't know, what's been your experience with that actually, in terms of, I don't know, the types of players that you've been encountering maybe on the recruiting trails, in terms of
Yeah.
maybe you're coming across guys that are a little bit more prepared, or they've heard some more things about how to carry themselves on a phone call, because those
Sure.
phone calls they can be very intimidating for players, but
Yeah.
if someone can prepare, it can definitely relieve a lot of that stress as well. And I'm speaking from experience too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no doubt as well. I get that. I've been in those shoes as well a long time ago, but I think there has to be a little bit of grace of kind of how you go about it. It's like, okay, he's a young man who's 17 years old. He's never done this before. He's talking about his future,
Yeah.
huge decisions being made. How can I be the coach that kind of suits him? Well, I just have to be me.
Hmm.
This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. So just being honest with them, I think number one, that's the main thing, and that's something that, again, through my experience, my career, that honesty with these things is so important to the parents, to the players, letting them know, and just being that ear for them. Hey, tell me about this, and just let
Mm.
them do their thing. Okay, cool. And you become personal with that. It helps out a lot. Then the player then all of a sudden you hear the tone go, oh, okay,
Yeah.
comfortable talking about,
Yeah.
to the gym. I'm comfortable talking about my class. It's not all, tell me, so um, that's it. Just be personable, be relatable to these guys. I think that speaks volumes as soon as they understand, like, hey, oh, you were recruited too? Yeah, I was. I understand what you're going through. And this is
Mm.
my experience when I did these. I was scared to death. I talking to these men that run these programs, and I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. And I was scared. It's like, Johnny, it's okay. I was just like you. I'm
Yeah.
just a coach calling, seeing how you doing, man. That's it.
Yeah. That's so funny because yeah, I'm thinking back to when I was doing this, and yeah, it would feel like, oh, it's like a big test. And we both know
Mhm.
that I need to score really well and to even be considered for the school. Like that's how it feels like, oh yeah, this is some big like challenge that I have to overcome.
Yeah.
It's like, no, no, they're just trying to get to know you.
Yeah.
Like that's so funny because I do feel like some coaches, they're almost looking for something maybe where they might say, okay, we need to establish if there's a fit, like a personality fit even. What's your take on that in terms of like, I how much do I need to find some compatibility with a guy over the phone, or a fit, compared to like, okay, I mean, we have different personal interests, but it's like, is that gonna make me not want to recruit a guy? Like,
Yeah. No, I mean, again, we do things different here. We take our time. We don't just call a young man, and just throw money at him and say, hey, we want you to be, I haven't seen you pitch yet, but I want you to be a Trojan. I'm like, that's not going to happen. So it's
yeah.
going to take again, 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 and just,
Hmm.
again, building that relationship, have them be comfortable. And I think one of the most important things with recruiting is, if we see a young man and we find that he's a great fit for us,
Mm.
probably even more important than that is making sure he's a fit, or that USC is a fit for him. He needs to understand that, hey, are these the coaches I want to be around? Are these the teammates I want to be around? Is this the environment? Is this the education I want? Is this where I want to live? Am I city guy? Am I this? So, I mean, there's all these things,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
that's why it's so important. You got to get personal with them. You got to be honest, because these kids now, they're under 18, so I can call them kids, but they're too smart. They're going to sniff it out. They have all the resources. They're smart, and they'll find out. And now with the community of all this perfect game and club play, I mean, they play with everyone everywhere.
yeah.
So the way you treat your players, were possibly the previous year playing for those club teams or Team USA or
Mm,
perfect game this and that and PBR, whatever it is, they all still talk.
yeah.
So when they call and say, "Hey, how's Etherton at USC?" They're like, "Oh no," or "Hey, yeah, it's exactly what he says." Yeah. So it's like,
Mm,
just be authentic. I think if you're
mm,
authentic with these young men and give them that grace to be able to speak, and those who are quiet, I get it. I was shy as can be. I didn't like
mm.
speaking, and I had to grow into it. So the recruiting, it's there's layers to it for sure, and you get to see these players kind of develop, emotionally. You start seeing them develop, the maturity level kind of go, and you start seeing the body physically. If you're looking at them as a junior to a senior, that's a big transition, and from senior
Mm,
to freshman in college. So there's a lot going on, and a lot of these guys come from a little small pond high school. Now you bring them into a big pond of USC. It's like, whoa. So you kind of give them a little love, little coddling here. Hey, hey, you'll be all right. This is big stuff. There's 25,000 students here. You're coming from a class of 200 in high school. It's like, I get it, but it's just making sure that they know that you're there for them and you actually
hmm.
care. I think that's probably the most important thing, is once they realize that you truly care about them, means that it means everything. Because I can honestly
Yeah.
tell you, the best years of my career were when I actually had a great relationship with my pitching coach, and I knew that he truly cared, and I
Hmm.
had the best seasons. My worst seasons when I didn't have a relationship with the pitching coach and I struggled. I mean, it just goes hand in hand. I wanted to
Yeah.
go to the field some days, some seasons, other seasons I just didn't. And it's the environment, it's the intention, it's the relationships. So that's what we do here. I think that's why we're going to be very successful, is because Coach Stankiewicz brings, 16 years of professional baseball playing, and his
Mm,
career is coaching professionally. Then he did 11 years at GCU. Now he's here
right.
at USC. Coach Jewett's been doing this for 25 years at collegiate level, bounced everywhere, from Vanderbilt, Tulane, and yeah, that's right,
There you go.
right, Big Jew. And then you got Sergio Brown, who's been doing this from Fullerton all the way through, bounced around a bunch of different universities. Coach Jenkins, he's played professionally, AAA, and this whole thing. So, I mean, we just have a wealth of knowledge here and
Hmm.
understanding what these young men need, and we focus on development. So, as long as they know that this is what we're going to do, we're going to develop the heck out of you, and along with that, we're going to win a lot. So, that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah, and you actually brought me back to something that Jew would say a bunch, and he has these little Jewisms. I'm sure, as you've heard.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's you made this point, of how important like the day to day sort of ongoings are. Your environment, the people you're around,
Sure.
and I remember Jew always saying, it's things that we do, every day that ends in Y. I love that saying because it's like, yeah, you just got to remind yourself that the pursuit, like what you're working on, it needs
Mm-hmm.
to be an everyday thing. And then to tie it back into those kids that are getting recruited, those are the things you should also be looking at. Those are the things you
Yes.
should be focusing on. And I'm remembering back when I was getting recruited, I didn't know what I wanted. I was like, oh, the gear at the facilities. Ah,
That's right.
so
That's right.
cool. Then you get there and you're like, oh, I don't even have time to think about that. I don't have time to think about how cool my stadium is, or my sweet Nike logos, or my color combinations. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no. The only
Yep.
thing that matters is like the stuff that you have to work on and the people you have to be around every single day.
Yep.
And it's like it hits you once you're in there, or like doing it, or even after. But I feel like a lot of players, it doesn't really hit them, and they might not be focusing on those things. So I'm thinking about like the players that you might be talking to on the phone, the high schoolers, and it's like, yeah, they might still be in a position where they don't even know what they want yet. You know?
And sometimes they shouldn't, and that's okay.
Yeah. I agree.
They're young. You don't know. You don't know what you want. That, and a lot of them say, I just want to go look at other places. I'm like, you know what? Do it. You got to do it because
Yeah.
if you were to choose USC, I want you to know that USC is the spot because you saw other places and you knew that USC was your spot, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fair. Of course, we want everyone to commit that we're interested in right away. That'd be great. But in perfect world, we want to make sure those guys, when they walk on campus their freshman year, they go, I made the right decision. These are the right people I want to be around. They're gonna develop me the best. They're gonna put me on the best path for my career in education and baseball. That's it.
When it's so tough too, because you guys can't. It's like impossible to land every recruit or every
Can't do it.
potential recruit. It's
Can't do it.
impossible. I
Yeah.
mean, oh gosh, yeah. I just think about like the job that you guys have in terms of managing that, especially with like we were talking about a little earlier with Bordeaux or grad guys or JUCO guys.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, the roster construction these days is just all over the place. It's got to be so much more complex than I feel like what it used to be, which
Yep.
was before Portal was like, okay, you got your high scores, and then you might bring in a JUCO guy or two here and there if you need it, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
now it's like, oh no, we can mix and match as much as we want. It's crazy. And to tie this into kind of what we're talking about, I feel like that can really affect a lot of teams and sort of the image, but the I hate to use the word culture again, but it's really what it is. It's like, okay, like if this is the style here. It's like, where might bring in a bunch of new guys because we need to. It's like, okay, well, what does that say? Like, what does that say about our culture? Like,
Yep.
and I don't know. I'm seeing it more and more, but I also understand it because your guys' job is so, again, ridiculously difficult. It just makes me think like, oh gosh, like being so um win oriented in a way. It's like because that is your guys' job. It's like you guys have to be so win oriented, but also the development piece is so crucial. And like you said, it's not just development of the player, it's development of the person too. It's
No
both.
doubt. No doubt. And that's it. I think as this staff, you look at just our pedigree and our experience here, we're very confident in our development. I know that we're going to be successful, and we've proven that in year one. And we have so much to look forward to. Now, as you get into the recruitment of guys, it is methodical. I mean, Coach Joe does an amazing job. He knows it. I mean, this is what he does. Coach Brown, Jenks, and Stank. And it's like, man, they have this thing. It's a well-oiled machine. We're going here,
Mhm.
here, here. We can do this. These are the options. But then you go, okay, this is what we need. Now, how do we go get them? Now it's like, okay, is there a chance we lose guys to the portal because they just want to go somewhere else? And that's the dynamic and the landscape of the NCAA right now with this NIL and the transfer portal. It makes things extremely difficult
Mhm.
when you're not really playing in that same league as these other schools that have these other um, resources. So
Yeah.
it's difficult, it's challenging, but again, I don't want to think we're salesmen, but what we're promoting here and what we're able to do for these young men, I think is very special. And again, it comes from our own experience as baseball players, and now we're into coaching of our lives, and um, we're gonna make them better. We're gonna make them a lot better.
Mhm.
We recruit professional athletes. That's what we look at. We want you guys to want to be major leaguers. If you don't
Mhm.
want to be a major leaguer, USC is not a place for you.
Yeah.
It's not. Okay. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to get guys who want to be major leaguers. They want to be great in school. They want to get an education. They want their degree, and they want to go out of USC with championships and be able to move through an organization quickly and
Mhm.
get to the big leagues as fast as we can. And that's
Yeah.
our job. And that's our confidence in us that we're going to prepare them for that simply because of our education, our experience, and how we relate to these players and how we teach them and respect them.
Yeah, and the reality is you have 35, 40 guys on a team. They all want to be big leaguers. We know that's
Yep.
not a realistic thing, but the type of person that comes in with those sort of aspirations, it's like,
Yes.
okay, I want 40 guys with those aspirations at least. Like, I can't predict the future that you're all going to be big leaguers. And to say that would be ludicrous. But if you have those mentalities, imagine what we can do at the college level, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Imagine.
yeah, that's ultimately what you want. you want these guys with those mentalities to come and work every day like that, and knowing that if I work as hard as I can, and then this is kind of my deal with these guys. I said with the pitching staff, I said, if you don't want to be the best pitcher on this team, I don't want you here. If you don't want to be a Friday night starter, want to be the best and just relied upon, I said, I don't want you here. Because if you just want to be number 2 or a weekend starter, well, that's not good enough to me. Because I need someone who wants that fight, that drive, that grit, and just that resilience to go. Because if we all do this and have this selfish attitude, it's not really selfish. It's selfish for you to be the best. Is that selfish? No, it's actually making the team better. If we have that attitude with each and every one of these guys, everyone's play rises. Everyone's attitude and mentality and confidence rises. Now we're building a staff where I'll have 22 available guys to pitch for me.
Oh, that's a dream.
Dude, you serious? I got 22 dudes. Now we got high caliber guys coming out of the pen who know themselves and know how to do what they do, know how to, scout and read hitters and do all these things. Man, we're in a good spot.
Yeah.
It's not just the 7 reliables. No, I got 22 now. Now what do you do? What are these other teams going to do where I can bring guys from all different slots and do certain things like Tampa Bay did a few years ago? They had every pitcher for the whole arc of arm slots on each side. It's like, man, it's a different look at everything. And that's what we're doing here. We're just making sure these guys understand that. And that the work that we do here is it's efficient. It's hard-nosed. It's kind of just like that dirty, mean mentality and how we go about things. And we're coming from the Reds with Derek Johnson and staff there, we talked about developing monsters. I tell you, I said, guys, I want to develop these monsters. It's a monster mentality. It's a monster physicality. It's a monster confidence on that mound. And we go against it. We're going to come after every hitter. We're going to make hitters uncomfortable. Number 1. Number 2, and create as much deception as possible. And you guys are going to know yourselves way better than anyone else has, because number 1 thing is I'll never be able to feel what you feel or think what you think. You need to help teach me about you. So I can help you. Let me get in your mind. Tell me. And that's one thing I tell them. I said, gentlemen, I'm going to ask you a ton of questions because I need to know you. I need to know what's going on through your mind. I want to know what you're feeling. Teach me. I can't do this for you. You need to teach me. So now they've become so much more self-aware and understanding how to, oh yeah, we can do this. What are you thinking here? I said, we got 1,000 different ways to do certain things. So we're going to find what works best for you. And that's why I love my job. That's why I love my job as a coach in professional baseball now here at college. I just love being on the field and help developing these young men, because it's so important. And like I said, my days are over playing. I can't do it. I'll go out there and play catch and not be able to lift my arm the next day. Fine, whatever. But it's like, I just want to see that light bulb turn on and go. And so you just see that elation. And now we're starting to get into that monster mentality and go. And when you step across that line, you know that you're more prepared than any hitter in that box, regardless of how great your stuff is. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So
I think it's so crucial to highlight the importance of a player's openness to say, hey, look, I'm struggling with this, or I'm not really sure what you mean by this when you say this thing. So many times I feel like just because a player and a coach didn't get off on the right foot, or they just, whatever it is, they're not talking to each other enough. It just totally spoils the potential development in that player, because for whatever it is, whoever initiates it, one side or the other, but both sides just fail to collaborate. And it's like, especially at the professional level, that's why I see a lot of, it's like that's what development is. It's a full-blown collaboration. You need to be very open on your side. You shouldn't be hiding anything, or any feelings you have, or any things that are going on, especially like in a pen or something like that. Or when you're when you're trying to develop stuff, it's like you got to be fully transparent, and
no doubt about it.
And I guess I don't know if you learned that from the pro side or if that's what you see, but that I feel like that is also what helps players kind of develop that sense of identity, and that uniqueness in a way of
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm this guy. Like there might be another guy who throws 90, 93 or whatever it is, but I also have this, and I'm really good at doing this with my fastball. And
Sure.
it's finding what you're good at, and really honing in on that thing, because we both know when push comes to shove, you got to have something to rely on too.
Hmm.
Like, late in games, stuff like that, high leverage situations, like you got to have a thing,
Yeah.
but if you're just going out there and you're like, yeah, I don't know, we'll see. It's like, I don't know if I can trust that as a coach, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so, but yeah, I did. So when did that kind of style like come to you, or when did you start implementing that style, would you say, like in your personal kind of career, like at what point in time?
Um, it's interesting because I can look back now, and there are a few
Hmm.
coaches that I learned some really good things from. Howie Gershberg was my first like full season
Hmm.
pitching coach. That was in 1999 in Double A in Erie. He's since passed, but
Hmm.
just a wonderful man, and because he cared and he's so knowledgeable. But I think the one thing that I took from him as a player, but now more so as a coach, is the simplicity. It
Hmm.
just, how can we make things so simple? And today all the analytics and all these things talking about certain verbiage and all these things, it's like, okay, timeout. You know, let's strip this back here. So what you're
Hmm.
trying to tell me, so when these young men tell me, I'm like, what you're trying to tell me is this. They're like, yeah. I said, well, let's just keep it that simplicity. You don't need to have this fancy language. We don't need to do all this stuff. We're going to have one vocabulary here, and it's going to be simple. It's going to work just for you. Okay. And it'll be individualized. Um,
Hmm.
so the simplicity for me from Howie Gershberg was really, really important. And through my failures, again, learned a ton through my failures, just trying to
Yeah.
understand, coming off a total reconstruction of my shoulder. I mean, I came out of college as pretty good arm. And then, I mean, it was just, I had to totally reinvent myself again.
Hmm.
And it was tough, but I had to understand the philosophy of pitching. And one thing I tell my my pitchers today is, you have to put yourself in the mindset and the visual of what the hitter sees. They're like, what do
Yes.
you mean? I said, what do you think the hitter sees? I go, I don't know. Well, we'll think about it. So we go through all this philosophy stuff, and
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to have my pitchers stand in on bullpens just to have them look at it and go, why do you think it to be so fine? Does that look hard to hit? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, why do you think you have to be so fine? So we're always an advantage, fellas.
Yeah.
If we beat them 70% of the time, that's like considered failing. But think about that. Those pitches that you groove, you leave middle, you're still getting them out.
Hmm.
You're still getting them out. So stop being fine. Center focus to begin with until you refine. Then we can refine to thirds, to fourths. Then we start working corners, and so it's just like, gentlemen, we don't need to complicate this. And again, that's just back to the simplicity of things.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, again, it's a confidence builder. It's them understanding themselves. Now, like Derek Johnson said, he's like, I don't believe in mechanics. And so I started thinking about mechanics. It's all I've heard my whole life, mechanics. I'm like,
Yeah.
and he's like, those are for cars. I'm like, oh, that's pretty simple. That makes sense. We start
Yeah.
talking about deliveries. I'm like, boom, there it is. Okay. Then we talk about
Yeah.
athleticism. We talk about rhythm and tempos and direction and weight transfers and hand. So it's like, so I preach deliveries. I don't talk about mechanics. And that's a DJ thing. I think that was fantastic. I
Hmm.
absorbed that. I stole that from him. It's like, and it's like, okay, now the players understand that. How athletic can I be? Well, you tell
Hmm.
me, show me. How loose and relaxed can you be? Oh, I need fast arm. I said, no, you don't need a fast arm. I said, you need a fast hand. I said, your hand. Because you can be slow here. What? You whip it. You're still going to spin the ball. I said, think fast hand. And,
Hmm.
and so it's just these little cues that we go through. And again, it's just simplicity. If you break down to the simplest form, and from deliveries to mindsets and things like that, it frees up so much of the confusion and just the static that goes on in their minds or thinking about all these other things. It just allows them just to be clear on what they're doing. And one thing I expect them to do every day when they come to the field is, gentlemen, I want you to come to the field every day with a plan of how you're going to get better. Now, it could be a repeat from the day before. That's fine until you master that. But one thing, that's it. We're stick with one thing. And each day when they're playing catch, I go to each guy, back and forth around. What are you working on today? I'm working on this. Okay, how are you going to do that? I'm going to do this. Well, what are you feeling when you do that? This. Well, what do you think? Like when you miss, what do you do? Well, I got to think this. I said, okay, so you have your cues, you have your checkpoints? Yeah. I said, good. Impress me. Show me. Boom. Okay, keep doing it. Go next guy. So it's this methodical practice and way to go about doing it. But they know who I am. They know what I'm going to do. They know how to hold them accountable. And they should hold me accountable for doing that every day too. But it's a simplicity of how we coach and teach and the relationship. Man, it's kind of like that song and dance. We just go out there, we kind of do our thing. We're rhythmic, we're doing our thing, and and it's just they get it, and it's been fun. And I think for me is getting back to my injuries and stuff, it really helped me understand how to prepare and how to take care of yourself, and really helped me hone in on deliveries and how to prepare and how you prepare your arm and mind each day. And I think that's one thing that kind of sets me apart from most is I know deliveries. I know how a person, how the body should work from the lower half to the top, and how your top half can only reciprocate if the lower half is in, proper direction or in, sequential order of a delivery, and hands you starting in with your hands. And so now we're starting to get efficiency. Now we're starting to see velo and stuff and control. I don't even talk about command. Command's a totally different animal than control. Very few guys actually command the ball. Even pro ball, it's like very few major leaguers can command the ball. Things. Control for sure. So we're at the lower level of control here, just trying to control pitches in the zone. So I don't put a lot of expectation on them to be fine, and they don't need to be, because a lot of these guys have unbelievable stuff.
And the at the college level players.
Yeah. And so it's just, again, it's just that basis of helping them understand who they are and building that confidence to where they can repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And just all of a sudden you start seeing this growth from the mindset and the physicality and becoming a pitcher. And that's probably one of the first couple of things I said the other day. I said, gentlemen, we're gonna develop each other as pitchers. I said, stuff is great, velo is great, unbelievable metrics, great. But I tell you what, Eric Davis, what a fantastic man with Cincinnati. And he's one of the special assistants to the GM over there. And he does amazing things with these young men. And he said, I don't care what you say. If that ball ends up over the fence, it's not a good pitch. And I'm like, that's pretty simple. Yeah, it's not a good pitch.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times guys that come in the dugout, they want to look at TrackMan. Well, that was 22 inches of vert there. I said, yeah, it's a good pitch, right? I said, you know what? The hitter thought it was a good pitch too.
Yeah.
I said, gentlemen, all these metrics, that's all great in terms of work and stuff, but if it doesn't get the hitters out, what's it worth? The hitters will tell you how good you are. That's it. The hitters will tell you how good you are.
Yeah.
Because they're really good the higher levels you go. So, I mean, a computer can tell you things where you're progressing at. That's great. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's a tool. But at the end of the day, if you're not getting hitters out, I don't care what kind of stuff you have. It doesn't matter to me. There has to be an adjustment made.
It's that day-to-day, we're kind of going back to the day-to-day idea, but how you said you were talking to players each day that they play catch and kind of teaching them how to go through a process of, okay, yeah, this is the thing I'm working on today. And I'll admit, I was the guy where it'd be like, oh, one day working on the curveball. All right, yeah, that's fine. All right, tomorrow, cutter. Next day, going back to the fastball. All right, next day, change up, making sure that's fine-tuned. Like, there's always one thing every different, like, there's always something else, right?
Yeah, yep.
And it's like, this might be a funky analogy, but it's the only one I can think of right now, where it's like, if you were to start playing a video game and then play for like an hour, like a story mode or something, right? Like where you have to like go through a whole set of levels. And like you play level 1 and then you just like put it down and go play the next game. And then you just play level 1 of that game. And then you go down and then next day you're just going playing level 1.
Yep.
You just keep playing a bunch of level 1s.
Yep.
And it's like you need to like beat the game first for you to actually get anything out of the work that you do on that one day. You know, it's like, and anyone can do 1 day's worth of work, but it's like, no, you need to string together like 50 days of working on that curveball or whatever. Yeah, that's arbitrary.
Yeah.
But you need to string those things together. Only then will you see actual gains, any sort of incremental change that will lead to results.
Yeah.
And that's another thing where it's like, it's pretty hard to do because most kids, if they're good enough to go to USC, they probably didn't have to, you know, I mean, you know, I'm speaking in generalities here, maybe a blanket statement, but most of them are probably pretty talented. You know, they were gifted to some degree and they worked hard for sure, but they were also pretty gifted, you know, and that natural development of just getting older, it helps them a lot, as opposed to like, oh no, I was working on my slider for 3 months and then I figured it out and then I got it and then I never lost it again. And it's like, yeah, those are the big difference makers right there. Like the guys that are like, no, I'm sticking with this. I gotta figure. I'm gonna keep working on this. And if I fail today, then I'll let you know, and then we'll keep at it. Just keep at it. You know, just keep at it. But yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny that you do that with your players because I would do that with myself, but I would change it all the time. I would always be switching up. And again, you're talking about the analytics piece of it too. It's so funny because I think analytics are fantastic. You know, they can be like a fantastic tool, and they've proven to work for a lot of people. But some people, me, i.e., not so much, in the sense that I might dive too much into it and overcomplicate. And like you said, I look at it almost like a bell curve where it's like, okay, you got the super simple guy over here, no analytics, right? Yeah, the complexity level is not high. But then you start diving into it and it's like, oh man, you're in the thick of it. You're learning all these new things. You're trying to be perfect here. You're trying to have perfect mechanics and also ball data. And it's like, all right. But once you start working at that stuff long enough, you realize like you only need to do a couple things right or 1 or 2 things right. You know, you only got to focus on 1 or 2 little physical cues and then, you know, 1 little things with the ball. And then you start to simplify back down. You know, it's like, all right, I've done it all. I've exhausted all my things. I can just hone in on a few or 1 or 2 that, you know, that's all I need. And that's all I need to focus on to be successful. So that's so funny because you need a balance, right? Like you need a balance of understanding what that technology piece is, especially with these young kids today. Like they know what it is. So you have to understand it, but you also have to understand how to use it.
That's right. And I think you're right there because for certain guys, this metric may be very helpful. For another guy, it may put him in a tailspin and have his mind going everywhere. And like, so you every personality is different. Everyone moves differently, which I found out. I learned like nothing is cookie cutter. It can't be. It's impossible. You can't do the same drills. Nothing is cookie cutter. Everyone moves differently. Everyone thinks differently. So as a coach, my job is to figure out what makes them tick, analyze, watch how they move, what works for them, and simplify that process for them. And that's where analytics can be a fantastic tool. You know, being with the Reds, we were on the cutting edge. We had Kyle Bodie. I mean, it was force-fed to us, and I learned a ton over the 2 years he was there. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But also learned, hey, I can do this, but I don't really need to do this with it. I can just kind of, I can use this one. I can use this one for this guy. I can use this one for this guy. And say, hey, this is what we need to work on. Because I believe that the analytics side of things and the pitch shaping, that's work. That's the work part of it. The game is play.
Yeah.
I don't care about analytics when you're playing. I want your hard work to show you how you can play. Work hard to play. That's it. You don't work the game. You play the game. And that's where when we work in bullpens and we have our portable TrackMans, we're doing all these things. It's fantastic. And guys are getting better. They're understanding what works best for their arm slot. I can't say, everyone talks about the 3 o'clock spin on a changeup. I'm like, that doesn't work for a guy with a high 3/4 arm speed or arm slot who spins a
Yeah.
fastball between 12:45 and 1 o'clock. Why would we want to do this? Number one,
Yeah.
you're losing deception. You're going to hurt the guy. He's not going to control it, and it's a
Oh,
spit on
yeah.
pitch.
Hmm.
So it's like we have to understand what works for that individual.
Yeah.
Rule of thumb, it's an hour later, whatever it is. So it's just like you just understand what the slot does, how the hand works, the manipulation. It's and that for me, that I think that's where that individuality, and Randy Sullivan wrote a fantastic book. He's the one who does the Florida Baseball Ranch.
Oh,
Wrote a
okay.
book, yeah, The Armory. Fantastic book. At the end of the day, it comes down to hyper individualization, and that's a term that sticks with me. It's like, boom, there it is. If you understand hyper individualization, you do everyone on the personal, just how they do things,
Hmm.
because it's them. That's that one person who has those distinct actions, mindsets. Boom, that's what you work with. You
Yeah.
can't take what he does with this guy because they're totally different. So,
Yeah.
and it's really important, and along with that comes relationships, comes the dynamic of how you speak to these young men.
Mm.
Everyone's gonna be different, and so analytics is great, but it takes the human element out of everything.
Yeah.
You need the personal, you need you need to be able to reflect, you need to be able to, what kind of resilience, where's this guy go mentally in what's crunch time. Analytics doesn't do that. Analytics doesn't take apart, hey, pitcher made a good adjustment here because you notice the hitter spread out with 2 strikes.
Hmm.
Analytics doesn't tell you that.
Yeah.
That's the pitcher being a pitcher. So there's so many elements to pitching that analytics it's a great chunk of it.
Hmm. That's so funny, the 2 strike thing, because I'm thinking about how you might see a guy on paper and it'll be like, oh, his yeah, he has a low strikeout percentage with, or whatever it is. And you're like, okay, yeah, maybe he just has great, good contact or whatever. It's like, no, he actually like completely changes the way that he hits with 2 strikes. So maybe you try to exploit that,
Yeah.
and you can't see that on paper. You gotta see it with your eyes,
Yep.
like
Yeah, and
it's
that's the
staring
other
at you right in the face when you're pitching to him.
Yeah,
So
and as we all know, hitters struggle. So I want to know what this hitter's done last 10 days, because that tells me where he's at. If he's hitting 450,
yeah,
but the last 10 days he's hitting $125, I'm
yeah.
going to find that hole and I'm going to exploit it, because
Mm.
he's struggling for some reason. So I don't
Mhm.
care if he likes away or he spins in, whatever it is, there's something going on here.
Mm.
So sorry, analytics. I need something here to add to being a pitcher in the mentality of how to actually attack hitters. And so, I mean, there's so many ways to go, and it's really interesting. And there are a lot of stats that you got to know that you just can't remember in a game. Saying, "Oh, this guy swings at first pitch fastballs in this this time of the game, late 7th inning on." It's like you'll never know that. That's why analytics is a great tool. You'll
Mhm.
be able to see those trends,
Yeah.
and so it's just there's a lot of kind of give and take and push aside and just absorb, and
Mm.
um, it's interesting. It's really interesting, but I think it's a piece of the entire puzzle that is important.
Well, I think you're bringing up something that, specifically, the difference between like what a guy has done the last 10 games versus, okay, we have, oh God, name a player, Xander Bogaerts. Like the data set for Xander Bogaerts is
Mhm.
crazy big. Like you can see so many data points from him. You can really hone in on what he does, right? What he does well, what he doesn't do well. It's pretty easy.
Sure.
With college, it's like, okay, you got a freshman and he's been popping off the last 10 games. It's like, I've got nothing to go off except that last 10 games. So you've got to learn how to exploit the human element of it, the psychology, right? Like you've got to say, okay, great. He was player of the week last week. Sure. But when did he get out? Let's look at that. Like let's look at those little things, because he's remembering those things as well. Like he's thinking like,
Yes.
yeah, I was player of the week, but I also struck out on this one pitch. And it's like, just get ready when you see it 5 more times.
That's
Like,
right.
it's
That's right.
like, so it's again, it's that balance where it's like, yeah, we love the data, but it's like there's the other parts too that are equally, if not more effective a lot of times in college because of the lack of data points that you have,
Mhm.
when it comes to actual game stuff. And I think that's kind of the difference between um, what we're seeing in professional versus college when it comes to what is presented on social media.
Mhm.
You're seeing, yeah, we're seeing a lot more people talk about specific analytics or just like data oriented stuff, whether it's ball data, biomechanics, anything on the college level. But the sample size is so small, especially on a team level where you kind of just blanket in a whole team and it's like, oh yeah, this team, like for example, this team has a stuff plus of like 120. And it's like, whoa, oh my gosh, crazy. What's their ERA? 5.8. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Like,
Stuff is
what's their
great.
record? Like, what's their record? They're 22 and 25.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Who cares about this stuff? Plus, then, like, come on, are
The
they
hitters
going?
think their stuff is plus too. They love it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
It's great.
it's like I don't, great. Oh, my stuff is amazing. Now, granted, I kind of understand the college side, maybe on an individual level, because you and I both know the pro scouts love the stuff.
Of
They love
course.
that. They love the
And that's their job, is to
project.
find the best stuff.
They
Stuff.
love the project, and they'll bank on their ability to develop a guy, like, because it's high reward stuff. Like, no doubt about that. But in
Yep.
college, it's like you can't have the mentality if you're trying to actually be successful on the baseball field. You know, like it's just not. That's not a. They don't align. Like
Yep.
that's one way versus the other. They're so different.
That's exactly right. Yes.
But yeah, I guess it's easy for you to know because it's like you come from that background too, where you've seen both sides of it.
Hmm.
But these kids, again, they might not have yet. They might not have. So it's a little bit difficult. And okay, let's go back to the command versus the control of the zone thing because
Please.
uh I mean I actually know one guy in my college career who, I mean, we could say he had the closest thing to like elite control where that
Sure.
walk percentage is real low, but
Sure.
still struck out guys, had good stuff, but just lived in the zone, both sides of the plate, multiple pitches where you're like, yeah, this guy just has a knack for being in the zone, but then also knowing how to throw certain quadrants. All right, that's one guy. Okay. That's so few and far between
Hmm.
that it's like, if I'm a pitcher, especially coming into college, if I'm a freshman, why am I trying to be a guy that can throw up and in with the fastball, down and away with the fastball, down and in with the fastball, like in the same at bat? Like, no, you don't need to do that. If you can get really good, I think if you can get really good at throwing, for example, a guy with a righty with a four seam, you can throw that four seam up and into a lefty, right? Like you're really good at that. Great. Use that like a ton. Especially if it gets results. It's
Yep.
like just do that a lot. Simplify it, like you said. Just be good at doing that. You don't have to throw that thing down and away and up and away. And it's like,
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think the ultimate calibration pitch to get everything in sync for I think for most pitchers would be glove side at the knees. If you're able to calibrate that, because there's so much that goes into that in terms of timing and which
hmm,
is the weight transfer and getting everything and actually getting through the ball to
yeah,
basically execute that pitch. Um, and then you start working glove side, belt up to lefties. It's like, boys, you need to understand what this hitter sees. He's seeing angle, it's coming across and it's elevating, it's spinning, it's a rise ball to them. And so yeah, there's again, it boils down to simplicity. If you just understand this is all you really need to do, you're gonna be just fine.
hmm.
And then just go own it, and just try to master it the best way you can because you'll be in a really good spot.
This is tough, I guess, to ask, but maybe as a generality, is it is it more logical to specialize or to say, okay, yeah, you have you have a capability of being, you know, a 3-4 pitch mix guy. Like if you can have 3 or 4 good pitches, you know, we
Mhm.
like that a lot. That you can
Sure.
just mix it around because again, we're talking about this the tack, the specialization piece. And I feel like that's a little bit more of a newer thing, or maybe it's becoming more popular today versus seeing a guy who's got 4 or 5 pitches, like and is the jack of all trades. I hate to use my name,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we're seeing a trend more so towards the specializing part as opposed to, oh, this guy's. I mean, he's Yu Darvish. You know, he's got all the pitches. Yeah, like
Mhm.
maybe just because it's more difficult to find that kind of guy. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no doubt. We have a young man here, Cade Naoki.
Mm,
He's a true four pitch mix, and
mhm,
he has the closest thing to command on our team. There's no doubt about it. But the thing with him, I think that sets him apart. I think he has this kind of this elite mindset of confidence. He knows what he's trying to do, and he really understands pitching. He's a great student of the game. Um, but I think the most important thing with him, and you can kind of go back in time and look at those guys that did a really good job at this, were these best athletes. I mean, he's a fantastic, knows how to field the position, knows how to hold runners. He's just a natural athlete. He put anything in his hand, he'll execute it, and
hmm,
it's a special talent. I'm trying to think of guys that just came easy, could have been undersized. They just made it look easy. I mean, you look like DeGrom, he's going to be just a special athlete. He just makes it look
mhm.
simple. He does. I mean, he's a freak. Um,
Yeah.
who
Oof.
was the guy? It's escaping me now. He pitched at Arizona State. Mike Leake,
Ooh, Mike
6 foot,
Leake.
6'1", maybe. Fantastic athlete. He could hit.
Mhm.
He could feel his position through all kinds of different pitches, and he executed. It was great, fun watching him pitch. He had a fantastic career. Those types of
Yeah.
guys, those are the ones that stand out. It's like, wow, okay, they have some serious ability that is you just don't see. And
Mm,
that's kind of how I feel about Aoki. He's got some things to work on, but he's one of those guys here that's really special in terms of almost commanding things, but a four pitch mix. That's true because he knows
mhm.
how to use it. He knows how to change speeds and eye levels and go from slow to sharp and fastballs and
Mm,
changeups in on righties. It's like, okay, you're understanding this. And so but then you get to these specialized guys. It's like, you know what? You don't spin it very well, but your fastball's freakish. So we're gonna do this. And you create deception because you're funky. We had a pitcher last year and Garrett Clark, he came in, he had a little hitch in the giddy up. He got behind the ball and he spun it and he ran it. And he had that mentality, hey, you're gonna beat me, you're gonna beat me on this. And
mm,
he just blew it by guys at 92. He'd be
hmm,
up to 94, but it's mainly 90, 91, 92. And he'd run a two seam. It's like that's all he needs
hmm,
because he owned that, he knew who he was, and he's gonna live and die by it.
mm.
Boom, here we go. And he'd show this, he'd show a little this, just to show. But when I would like call a fastball, whatever it is, I knew what's coming. And I'm gonna say, this poor hitter, man, here it comes. I dare you. And it's just
Yeah.
boom, and it's just those specialty type things. And then we have a guy like Blake Soderstrom last year who can rip a slider at any point, and he fell in love with it, maybe a little too much. But it's like, okay, but this is what he's comfortable with, owned it, and did it.
Mm.
So and then there was a transition of, hey, use your fastball, but even makes your slider even better. And so yeah, it's interesting dynamics, no doubt. Help these young men understand who they are and what they're capable of doing. But in terms of like the pitch mixes and all those types of things, if you're a three pitch mix guy for me and you're able to throw it at any count, you're going to be a double A pitcher anytime soon. That's
Hmm.
what it's. That's what it is. You're a double A pitcher right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen plenty of players not be able to do that
Yeah,
at
yeah,
that level.
yeah,
It is pretty surprising when you see that stuff. I mean, if you live in a small town, there's probably a minor league stadium there, and you can go to a game. You can see some professionals
yep.
work some stuff out, on that mound. You can see some stuff where you're like, wow, like not that different. There's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many good college players too. I feel like the talent gap is almost it's kind of closing in a little bit, in terms of like, oh yeah, we've got these college guys. I mean, they're ready.
Yeah, I think well, obviously with contraction, so now the draft's a lot less. There's less teams, so I think it's to be a little more concentrated. The best players of every organization.
Yes.
I think the analytics side may be kind of waning off a little bit, so it's not so analytic based. I think there's be more development on pitchability and things like that in pro ball. So if you start making that kind of like that 180 kind of back maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, you look at it because there's been so many injuries,
Oh God.
so many injuries, and it's
Yeah.
all been based on stuff,
True.
not pitching.
Absolutely.
Stuff. It's been shoved down their face. And
Yeah.
now it's like, we got to get back to like health. I mean, just in terms of organizations, if your players are healthy, too much money that saves you. You don't have to go out and get free agents. You have to do all. It's like, if we focus on health, we're in a great spot.
Yeah.
Then we start developing pitching. We're an even better spot. Because do you know what? I guarantee you, hitters aren't trained to hit curveballs. They're trained to hit fastballs from a very young age.
Yeah. The best hitters in the league, they don't miss the fastball.
They don't miss it.
Yeah.
And then they say, hey, if I'm in this count, I'm gonna sit slider, and they don't miss that. That's the elite. They have that mindset. They know how to go, hey, elite.
Yeah.
That's the chess game.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, I'm gonna sit on a slider here. I'm not gonna miss it. And they don't miss it. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. But you also see a lot of fastballs where it's inside, they just take it, and you're like, what the heck just happened? Well,
that's a cat and mouse right there.
Yeah. That's strictly because he sat a different pitch.
Yeah.
He didn't get it, so he had to take it.
Oh, that's so I learned that pretty late, honestly, in my college career. I had a friend who he's actually with the Reds right now. He definitely helped me with this in terms of like really watching the hitter, because they're telling you what to do.
Yep.
Like, maybe it's not written on their face, but you can piece it apart, like some things that they'll show you, whether it's a take or a type of swing or where they foul the ball back. I mean,
have you ever, I asked my pitchers this too. I said, have you guys ever just watched an on deck swing? Like, why would we do that? Do you think a hitter's going to swing where he doesn't want the ball?
Yeah.
I said, just pay attention.
Yeah.
That's where he wants the ball. That's where he wants to launch.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Just don't throw it there.
That's so odd, because I do remember this is weird. I'm picturing when I faced ECU actually. And I remember because like Connor Norby, if you know that name, he's with the Orioles now. I think he was like a second rounder. But I mean, I'm no stranger to the fact that Connor Norby is the guy in our conference that is like leading the league in average. I mean, he's a dude. So I'm like, okay, I know he's about to come up. Like, my eyes on him. Like, I'm like, I'm getting him out. This is happening right now. I gotta get him out. So I'm like studying him. The first day, because I wasn't the Fry guy, but I was, the next game, I'm studying him. I'm watching his movements, like on deck in the game. I'm watching. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing everything I can. So when this guy gets up, I'm punching him out. It has to happen. And like, I remember going through that at bat pretty like vividly as well, thinking like, okay, yeah, it's like 2-2 or whatever. And before I even got to that count, I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm going to strike him out on. I just need to get to that point. And then when we get to that point, I'm like, it's already happened. I've already thought about it. I've already prepared for it. I know where he wants to swing. I know where he wants to hit the ball. Like I'm seeing it, and I think we set it up well. And then bam, yeah, I throw the pitch, and it's like, yeah, that exactly. It's like chess. It's like, yeah, I was just a step ahead. Now, I made a good pitch in a good spot, right? Like, and he's a great hitter, but I mean, if I did that with every hitter, I don't know if that's even humanly possible, but I was like, yeah, I was just ready. I was just prepared. I was looking at that stuff, and that's free too. I love that when people are like, oh, it's free. Like, it doesn't cost anything
to look at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's there. It's there for the taking. And I'm like,
on the flip side, wow. And on the flip side, I tell the pitcher, I said, do you realize you're in between innings pitches, your warm-ups are in sequential order of your ratings of pitches?
Yeah, a lot of the time, yeah.
I'm
Oh, for
like,
sure.
just saying, fellas, hitters are paying attention to that too. So they
Yeah.
know that you're after you throw your fastballs, because that should be your number one, and you go right to your slider
The
or your
primary
out
breaking
pitch,
ball. Yeah.
they know.
That's so funny because I would always be like, yeah, my changeup sucks right now. I'll just throw like 4 in the warmups. And then I just do that. I'm like, yeah, let's just throw a bunch of changeups. Just throw a bunch of changeups in the warmup.
That's right.
Because
That's
my
right.
4th pitch, and I'm like, all right, I'll get some action, see if I can use it, against this
Mhm.
this righty that's coming up. But I'll do it first in the warmups, that's for sure. That's so funny. Oh my god. Yeah, I never because cutter was kind of like my you could call it my out pitch, my primary breaking ball or off
Uh-huh.
speed pitch. I never threw it in warmups, like maybe once. But I
Yeah.
was like, I'm saving this.
Yeah.
I'm saving this.
They
Is
don't need any looks.
this is in the back pocket. I know where I'm throwing it. I'm good. Yeah, it's just funny too. I'm bringing it back to the just knowing that I can throw this pitch in this one spot.
Mm-hmm.
In college, no offense to college hitters, but most college hitters, I feel like, I can get them out with a good pitch,
Yes.
even if they like it. If it's a good pitch in a like I can throw a good pitch in a good spot, it's gonna work. Like it's gonna work. With metal, you might see some mishits and some dinkers and stuff, sure, versus wood where you might break a bat.
Yes.
But more times than not, like if you can just hit that spot, like it's gonna work. It's gonna be successful. It's gonna be so useful too. Like I'm going back to the God, what was I saying about the reliability of like a pitch? It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just having that thing to fall back on too. Like when you're in those tough situations. And I'm speaking from experience because I was a guy where I was known for getting myself in tough situations. It'd be like, all right, lead off single, and then an error happens or whatever, and it's first and third, no outs, and I'm like, all right, here we go again. Yeah, let's get ourselves out of
Yeah.
this one. And I'm like, yeah, kicking another gear. Maybe I'm gonna use my cutter 3 or 4 times in a row. Did it work? Yeah. Yeah, it worked. So great. You have something to fall back on. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. That the pitching philosophy is so interesting because I feel like there's so many different opinions now and so many different opinions that the kids that you might have coming in or the returners that you even have might be listening to, especially on social media, where it's
Yeah.
like, how do you make sure that it's not noise, that they're taking in. Well, actually, yeah. Do you ever get that? Do you ever get players that are like, hey, I saw this thing on social
Oh
media,
yeah.
like I want to try this?
Oh, it's
I gotta imagine.
it's an epidemic. It's one of those things. It's just it's bringing it back to reality and having to say, first off, I mean, there's some freaks out there, the Verlanders, the Pedro Martinez's, the Nolan Ryans. It's like they watch all these clips. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I'm like, you guys have to understand. That's one man in the entire world that can do what he does.
Yeah, a
So
vacuum.
that's fairy tale stuff. That's untouchable. That's unicorn. You can't do that
Yeah,
now.
there's no quick fix. There's no quick
Yeah,
fix to
I
doing
mean,
that. That's for
are you
sure.
number one? Are you even capable physically of doing something like that with the way you throw? No,
Yeah, yeah. Are you
he's a
like
high three
this,
quarter. You're a
Pedro?
low three quarter. It doesn't work. Yeah, it just your body moves differently. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And it's like, gentlemen, we need to have you understand who you are.
Hmm.
We're going to get you through your natural arm path by being on time with your hand. And then we'll be able to establish that's our base. Then we can go from that part and see where you spin the ball at 100% efficiency. Then we get to there, we go, okay, now with that, now we can build on this. This is what I expect the next pitch, your breaking ball, your slider, or your changeup. This is what we're kind of looking at here. Here's kind of like here it is. And this is who you are. Now
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just
yeah.
hone this in. We don't need to be so broad spectrum. Let's keep it in here. Let's
Hmm.
master these things, and then we move forward.
Yeah.
And let's simplify this, fellas.
Yeah, I mean, especially like you said, with the difference between having like 7 reliable guys versus 22, it's like, I mean, that I would imagine that's pretty game changing, and like you kind of already alluded to that, but that has got to be something that is so uncommon in college baseball these days because it just, I don't know what it is. Like it seems like bullpen, like just college bullpens, there never seems to be a ton of depth. Like it seems to be pretty
Yeah.
few and far between.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, but maybe it's just a usage thing in terms of like, yeah, we need like, there's just not enough innings, but
True.
I don't know.
4 games a
Again, what?
week, you got, let's say 20 guys, 4 games a week. I mean, how do you get them all in? If starters those who've earned their spots, they're going 5 or 6. Well, you got 2 or 3 innings left to fill. And it's like, well, how do we do that on a regular basis to keep them sharp?
Yeah.
And that's where you got to get creative. And that's where their self-discipline, their accountability, that where they're actually getting their work in, because when they do get called upon, they need to perform. And we all know that not everyone's going to perform at their top every time. And there's always going to be more opportunity. And that's one thing that they need to kind of relish in is like, gentlemen, I failed so many times, but understand that your failures are the best times to learn. And I get that. I get that, boys. And we're going to get you back out there, get you back on the horse. I want to see how resilient you are and how you get back to it. So stay positive. Let's keep rolling. And so we go. So it's just the positivity, the understanding, and that being personable with them, knowing that I stunk a lot too. I think it's kind of, they feel like, wow, okay, I'm good then. You don't need to panic. You have a tough day. Own it. Who cares? Move on. Learn from it and go.
And I do feel like a lot of players in college baseball may feel like they're failing if they're not a starter. I've so many guys in college, they're like, dude, yeah, I just want to be a starter. And it's like, do you have any idea how valuable being that like Swiss Army knife reliever is to a college pitching coach? Oh my God. Or a closer even. Oh my gosh. Like I would say it's probably invaluable actually, because the starters, it's like, yeah, you can only use them for that one day. And like what you get is what you get. But that reliever, that guy you can go to in the tough spots or when you need a long relief out, it's like
yeah, those swing guys are huge. I mean, you get
need
2 out of
that.
3, and a couple of guys stepped up last year for us that did pitch as freshmen, that came in and they did some things. And it's like, wow, you may not be happy with your numbers, but do you know how valuable you were to us? Because you may have had an ERA that was inflated, but that may have come in 1 or 2 outings. The rest you were so solid. You may have had a couple blow-ups. When you give up a 7 spot in 2, it's like that's hard to recover from regardless. But look what you've done. So it's just that reaffirmation of these guys, and knowing that, hey, I need a bridge guy if our starter gets in trouble to get out of that inning, maybe a specialist that needs a punch out. That's your role, dude. That's what you got to do. And then we bring in our 2-3 inning guy to get us that 6th inning. Now we can line back up to what our plan is if we're still in that game. So, yeah, and I guess my point with that is a really important factor in professional baseball I ran across, and then obviously in college baseball. When pitchers know their role, it allows them to prepare. It allows them to mentally and physically be ready to go. Hey, if you're down by a lot, that closer and setup guy's like, okay, I'm gonna chill out here. I don't need to re-engage. I'm good. When that starter's cruising and it's a tighter game, boom, they're locked in. When the starter's struggling, that mid-relief guy, that swing guy comes and goes, dude, this is me.
Yeah, he knows.
So it's like you start teaching them that development of being a student of the game as it's going. When your role comes up, because it's a distinguished role, you know what you are, and I'll tell you before the game exactly what you're going to do. You're hot today. You're this. This is what I see you in. Maybe it's a matchup deal, whatever it may be. It's like, as long as they know, and us being pitchers, it's like, man, I knew my role. It allowed me to prepare, allowed me to study and know if I'm a lefty specialist, I know I got to get this guy out. Let me look up, let me study this. Let me see how I'm doing today. Because as we all know, our stuff's not the same every day. Hey, slider's not working today. Well, I got to get to the fastball. I got to run this in. Number 2 pitch changeup. Here it comes. So it's pitching, it's preparation, it's understanding, and it's trust. And the more we're able to give that to these players and understand that, hey, I'm allowed you to prepare the best way you can, but you got to know yourself and how you can prepare for these situations. And that's why I think for us, the fall is, I put you in this role today. I want to see what you do. I want to see how you prepare. I'm watching you. Okay, coach. So it's just being upfront, give them the information, let them do what they need to do, and then help along the way to do it. And then you just give them feedback and more feedback. And hey, what'd you do here? Well, what were you thinking when you did this? Okay. Well, do you think you could have done this with this? Well, that makes sense. I said, okay, next time, try that. So it's just being there for them. It's important.
On the pro and the college level, I've seen I've seen plenty of pitchers who are going in and they're like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll get in this inning. Maybe I won't. Or yeah, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go in there and throw my pitches. It's like how are you gonna feel when you're actually like on the mound competing against a guy? Like, how's that gonna feel
Yeah.
when you lack any ownership of the role or preparation? Because, and I'm saying that because I've been in that position where I know what that's like, but I also know what it's like to have that role and it be established. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know what I'm doing right now. Well, I'm coming in and I'm getting the save, or I'm coming in and I'm bridging the gap here. Like
Mhm.
I'm getting it to the eighth inning guy. Like I know what I'm doing here. Like, yeah, it's so funny. There's nothing worse than a pitcher like not knowing what he's supposed to do and going into anything with uncertainty. Like it's so frightening, especially for a lot of young pitchers. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. But it's also pretty difficult too, because I would imagine year to year, the roster that are given, in the fall, right? And by the time you get to spring, the pitching staff that you have, you're going into, it changes. It might
Yes.
even change within a season too.
Yes.
You might have a couple of long relief guys that you can rely on, and one of them gets hurt, or maybe you don't have a ton of long relief guys, and you got a bunch of one inning guys who like they're really good in the one inning, and you're like, okay, I guess we're gonna have to maybe we'll have to move a guy to a long relief thing. Like
Sure.
this might change, this might switch up. I mean, does that happen very often during season? Is that something you really like? You really try to establish and stick to before the season? And again, it's
Um,
probably changing between seasons,
yeah,
But
I think it's due in part to the recruiting. So we have guys
mm,
coming in. This is what we think they're going to be. It's always what you think they're going to be. There are
yeah,
times when they get into the fall, you put them in these roles, you're like, I just don't see it. He just,
hmm,
those late end guys like, he's got the stuff. He just doesn't have the mentality to do it. So let's try him
okay,
at this role, maybe take some pressure off of him here. Let's put him in a position where he can excel and do well.
right,
Um, and that's where it just gets tricky. You just gotta watch. You gotta try to understand, and there's always gonna be changing, and that's fine. But as long as you're open and honest with these guys and have them kind of tell you what they're thinking, let's kind of delve in there a little bit. And like, okay, well, maybe there are some changes we can make on the mental side, because a lot of it, as soon as you step across that line, it is all mental. How fast the game's going for you. When you start feeling your delivery get out, where do you go to? Are you slowing down? What are your cues?
hmm,
Your verbal, your tangibles. It's just like your audio. I mean, there's so many things to go, but that's what the fall
yeah,
is so important for. Let's put
yeah.
them in situations. Let's coach them up. Let's develop them. Let's help them learn who they are. And at the end of the day, when game one starts, it's like we have an idea who we have, and this is what they're going to
Hmm.
be. They're going to know where they stand, and these are their roles. And then until things change, where people fail, and something happens, then we make those changes.
For those new guys on the block, it could be pro too. I mean, because you've obviously seen, those young pros coming in their first year, but more specifically in college. Um, in your experience, what is the most common type of way a guy can fail? Is it usually just like a guy, on the field, he's just getting overmatched, or because they will fail. These freshmen,
Yeah,
they will
yeah,
fail,
no,
and
yeah.
they
It's not
know if
really
they've
getting
listened to this show.
overmatched. I think they just get in their own way mentally,
Okay, yeah.
where they can't settle in and just simplify that process of, I just need to throw strikes. If you throw strikes, that's all I tell them. If you throw strikes, you're gonna be successful. So try to be fine, but it's a lot easier said than done. You got
Hmm.
nerves. You're facing a 22-year-old senior, and it's like, well, where are you going? Teach me. Tell me about yourself. What are you thinking right now? Are you freaking out? Where are
Mm,
you inside? Are
mm,
you nervous? Are you scared? And that's okay.
yeah.
Let's work through this. So I think mainly it's going to be the mental side of things. Rarely at this level is it you get beat because your stuff's not very good. And if that's the case, then we didn't do a good job recruiting. Um, so it's mainly just having them understand themselves mentally, and then maybe teaching them about how to sequence a little better. And one of my big things with them is you have to understand how to pitch in the zone, and you have to understand how to pitch out of the zone.
Yeah.
You have to understand where you can miss and where you can't miss.
Hmm.
So if you understand those things, you'd be like, okay, well, I'm 1 and 2. I'm gonna throw a slider right here. I can miss dirt. I can't miss cement mixer, middle of the plate, and just give a shot. I can't do that. So I'm going to focus left corner, glove side. I'm going to think angle with my eyes. I'm going to get to the front part of that ball. I'm going to rip the seams and pull the thing down.
Mm-hmm.
And trust it. And then more often than not, you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
So just these little processes of these guys and understanding who they are, what they're capable of doing is probably everything to them, because then they go, oh, I can do this. I'm going to throw this fastball in. Well, if I hit him in the ribs, it's okay. I'm just not going to miss middle. If I miss if I miss and I brush him back, well, there's a ton of value in that pitch right now, because that on deck hitter now is like going, uh-oh. So you're starting to set this tone.
Yeah.
That's one thing we did really well last year. We pitched in, and we're going to continue to pitch in. We're going to pitch in some more. And we're going to hit a lot of guys. And now this year, it's like, hey, we just have to refine our hit batters in certain situations. We're ahead 0-2, can't hit them, but we could dust them. We can move them, have value. So
I like the pitching in philosophy. I feel like not enough players really do it. And it's, for some reason, it's just something you don't see a whole lot, right? In college, like especially high schoolers. Like I feel like you just don't see a lot of high schoolers doing that. They love throwing that fastball away. Yeah. It's
they
like,
don't
why?
want to hit guys. It's
yeah,
like
why?
because like, oh, well, I just don't want to hit them. I said, well, why not? Are they trying to swing softer and not hit the ball hard against you?
Yeah.
It's like, don't give in. I say that's part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're scared, then you maybe shouldn't be pitching. Or we have to develop you mentally to say, hey, do you know what? I'm going to change my focal points with my eyes so I don't see the hitter. I'm just going to take that spot. I'm going to own that.
Yeah. That's definitely what I did. Oh, that's what I did for sure.
Corner to 6 to 8 inches off. That's what I'm going to own. And that's what we're going to work on every day in catch play. Get on the mound, short boxes, whatever it is. That's what I'm going to own.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, it is kind of that feeling that you gotta go back to. Because I was a kind of guy, or I am the type of player where I don't like to look at the batter too much. I like to just zone in. You know, if I try to zoom out a little bit, I get kind of too like distracted almost. Sure. You know, I focus a little bit too much. You know, actually, you could look at the body. Like I could look at the body of the hitter, see what the movements are. But when I look at the face, I'm like, oh no, I gotta forget. I gotta forget that guy's even like looking at me.
That's right.
Yeah, that's so funny. But I would definitely rather hit a guy than walk a guy any day of the week, right?
Think about the value of that, what that sets up.
Yeah, the intimidation factor too.
Oh man, we're here to make hitters uncomfortable. Make them uncomfortable, disrupt their timing, create as much deception, and just attack. Be relentless on it.
You know what I love too is there's teams. You know, I don't know any teams. I know I've played on a team or two where the hitters love to get hit. They love to crowd the plate, get hit by fastballs. Great, love that.
Fine with me.
But if I paint it inside, are you thinking, oh, I'm going to swing at this, or I'm trying to get hit? So maybe you're just not even going to be swinging at the inside fastball a whole lot.
Yeah, I don't have to be fine.
Yeah, I can just throw it in the inner third, and you're thinking like, oh, please hit me. It's like that's not a swing. Great. Yeah, take those all day. Trying to get hit. I love that. I love that. It sets up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, if you do smoke a guy, do you know what? We're still 1 pitch away.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, if we're bases loaded, no one out, we're still 1 pitch away, boys, because you're going to run a sinker to righty's hands where you can go 5-2, 5-2-3 double play. Now we got second and third, 2 outs with base open. I don't have to pitch this next guy. That's the mentality I want. Then you can go for the punch out. We'll be all right.
One of the questions I wrote down is like, what's the difference between a good college player and a future professional? Now, we've talked about that a little bit, but it's kind of an interesting question only because there might not be really any difference that much when it comes to age. Now, because like I'm saying, there might be an 18-year-old right now who's a professional, and there might be an 18-year-old who's a freshman in college, and their talent level might honestly be pretty similar or almost the same.
Sure.
But maybe as you get older, maybe as you see the development of that, like the 22-year-old college player, the 21-year-old college player versus the 22 or 21-year-old pro, or, you know, 2 guys that are at a college program, and you have one guy where it's like, he is going to be the pro. He deserves, like, he's ready. He is prepared. Like he's there. He's should move on. And then the guy where it's like, all right, yeah, he's good, but I don't know if I see a future there.
Yeah, I think mentality is one. You know guys who are just hungry that just, they have that it factor. You can look at him and go, yeah, he's it's a little different. This guy's a little different.
Hmm.
I think refinement, I think professionals have a little better feel and understanding of where, like I said before, where you can miss, where you can't. They're just more refined. They have better control of pitches. They understand pitching a little bit more.
Limiting mistakes, right? Like that's kind of
No
the
doubt
big
about it.
one.
No
Yeah,
doubt
yeah.
about it. They
We
they
touched on
just
that.
they
Yeah.
control the ball better and they know how to pitch better.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean their stuff's better. They just know how to pitch. They know how to use it better.
Yeah.
Um, they know themselves better in terms of preparation. And that's one of the big things here is developing these young men is just understanding how they prepare and what they're really good at and mastering those things.
Yeah.
Um, so but on the other hand, when I was with the Reds, I did a couple short season stints in Billings, Montana, and I had some arms that came through from big schools. They didn't really have a process on how to play catch. They didn't know footwork. They didn't know. So it's like it's hard because do they have the talent? No doubt about it. But then there was a high school kid on that same team that was like, man, this guy's polished. He knows how to play catch. So I think it comes with the education and the development they've had prior to pro ball that
Yeah.
really kind of helps them because there's that transition to pro ball. Obviously, time management without going to class. There's all these things you're dealing with, and now you're on every 5 days if you're a starter. Relievers, you're expected to go back to back days. Maybe twice a week. So it's like, man, it's like there's a lot more involvement.
Mm.
Um, but again, I think those who are more refined, they understand their preparation. They know how to take care of themselves. They know how to eat. They know how to sleep.
Mm.
Those are the guys that you're like, okay, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's disciplined, self-disciplined, I should say, and he just understands it. And he's
Mm.
that it's just a different talent. It's just kind of hard to describe.
Yeah, it is kind of funky to attempt to put into words, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's something you see.
Yeah,
We
you've
we've
seen it. You've seen guys come through. You're like,
yeah.
whoa, man, that's just different.
Yeah,
See how they
yeah.
hit the ball. It's like that's a different sound.
Yeah.
That's a different sound when they run. That's a different sound when they throw that fastball. You hear those seams. It's like this is a little different. So
Yeah, and we've touched on preparation, I feel like a few times now. Do you remember what your like routine was like? Do you remember that? And I'm kind of curious now if you
yeah,
apply that to your players. Like you said, no one's cookie cutter, so everyone's pretty different.
yeah.
Like how do you help each guy prepare, and figure out their specific way to prepare?
Well, I think the first off is watching them, let them do their thing, kind of
Hmm.
see what they're doing, kind of see how they are as an athlete, how they move. For me, I was pretty structured. I don't know how I learned it. I was just pretty structured. I knew that I got to do this in college, in high school. I do all my certain things. Again, I don't know where I learned it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's I mean, there's so many different tools now. It's just crazy. Everyone's got Theraguns, everyone's got plyo balls, everyone's got bands. I didn't have any of that. So it's
Yeah.
like, how did I survive? I don't know. I didn't know I needed a massage before I threw. I didn't know. Um,
Yeah.
so it's just maybe they're those are little crutches that they need for mentally think, oh, I'm okay now since I put this gun on my arm. I don't know. Whatever, whatever you need, guys. I get it.
Sure.
Um, but I think at the end of the day, it's just making sure that they have, starters have their own routine, relievers have their own routine, making sure that they have the time necessary to do what they need to do. And then
Hmm.
during the falls is when I'll really watch them and say, hey, can we clean this up a little bit more? I don't like these drills because for your delivery doesn't work. Maybe we can do this and just let's simplify it a little bit more. You don't need all these throws because by the time if I need you, twice this weekend and you're doing all these throws, I said, there's not a whole lot of time for recovery. You're breaking down to where I need you for the next 3.5 months.
Sure. Yeah.
We need to simplify these things a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
I don't,
Hmm.
I'm not saying wasting bullets. I believe you need to use all your bullets in your career, but it's like we need to put them to better use. So,
Yes. Well, and you also have to be able to change your routine. Especially, well, maybe not
no
starters
doubt about it.
so much. Sometimes though. I mean, like during a
Yeah.
season, I'd see these starters. Like there's a rain delay or something, and you
Yep.
gotta you gotta shorten it up or whatever it is. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, starters, but relievers, oh my gosh. Like sometimes you're warming up for 3 innings, other times it's like phone, Aldrich, now,
Yep.
go. It's like now we need it's like 3 batters. Come on, go.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, you're just gonna get on the mound and start throwing. It's like, no, you got to prepare for that too. You got to
That's being attuned to the game, right? If
you
you
got
know
to
your
prepare for how to prepare.
That's right. That's right. If you know your role, that's why I say it's so important. If you know your role as
Yeah,
you're watching the game, you're like, this could happen here. If he walks a guy and another guy gets a hit, and all of a sudden, where's this pitch count? Okay, so third inning, he's at this. Oh, he's at 65 pitches. Now it's starting to get up there. This is my role. He's getting some trouble. I need to start moving.
Yeah, you hear the clock in your head is like, all right,
right.
yeah, let's
That's
start
right.
going. Every second counts.
And that's part of the development. I don't need to be on a walkie-talkie or phone and say, hey, get going. They should already be there. And that's my job to teach them how to do that. But again, if you have established roles and they know their roles, it could be 3 guys that have a mid-relief role or a cleanup role. I don't know yet, but they'll know. And then, hey, you start kind of dancing with the game a little bit. Okay, this could be my spot. Now I get going slowly. So now when you get that call, it's like, boom, okay, I got my 8-pitch routine. I'm good. There's no surprises. You're prepared.
Yeah, I think if you're a player, if you're like a young college player, and in your mind you start to think, could I get in right now? Maybe I could get in right now.
Yeah.
It's like that's your signal to start moving around, probably.
Yeah.
Start getting the body moving at the very least. Like just get up, get the legs moving, because the last thing you want is to be like, so and so get hot, and it's like, what?
Yeah,
I haven't even stood up in 3 innings.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
I've been sitting down like this, just watching the game. It's like, no, you can't have that. Can't have that. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I can definitely think about it.
But again, that's my responsibility to teach these guys. That's always on me. And if they don't do their job, then that's a discussion. And I just got to get them better.
I never wrote down my type of routine. I kind of just always had it in my head. I feel like it'd be pretty valuable actually to kind of like write it down, just to jot it down somewhere, or be able to recite it in your head, just saying like, okay, I know I'm going to do these and then this and this and then I know if I do those things, I should be good. And I guess if you're a player who's not very good at remembering the routine, it's like, yeah, you definitely should be jotting it down.
Yeah, and
something like that.
I give all my pitchers a handbook, and for me, it's just a log, because this game changes so much, and the way you feel certain days, and you're good, and you're not good, you're sleepy, you're over, you feel too good, and so it's like you try to help these guys, but just write down how you felt that day. How good were you? Were you good? Were you great? Were you bad? Were you awful? And just just write down what you did. So because when you do get that base of when you're outstanding, really write down what you did, because those days that you're struggling, you're like, I didn't do that. I didn't stick to that. So at least you have a base of greatness, and you go, man, I should have done a better job doing that today. So it's like, okay. So it's just a log of how you've done and where you are mentally. And
back to. And it's both too. It's physical and mental, because you'll have the guy. You'd much rather have the guy that is not physically ready that day, but mentally he can go in and he can be like, nah, I mean, I got 75% in the tank, but I'm using all of that. I'm using all 75%.
Sure.
As opposed to the guy where it's like, oh man, I feel good and stuff, but like, yeah, I didn't do any prep. I'm just on the mound throwing now. And like when I go in, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this pitch or how my body's moving, and I'm going to be overthinking things. And it's like, you're not even ready. I can't put you in. You're not ready.
I know.
You're not ready mentally. Like, give me the guy he's dialed in the dome. Come on. Like, and as you probably know, I mean, that's why like there's always that older guy, that older bullpen guy where you're like, yeah, he's done it. The experience. It's like, yeah, you just lean on that too. But I do think about like those young players, or even if you're not like a freshman in college, that maybe aren't getting that many innings, and it's the middle of the season, right? And they're not getting as much experience that season. And it's like, how do you stay sharp?
Yeah.
How do you stay on top of it? I feel like that's something that more players would struggle with, or
Mhm.
they might let that get to them. The fact that they're not able to stay sharp by being in a game consistently. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, I do, because we had those issues last year, and it's tough
Mm,
because we're in a lot of really close games where we had to lean on the guys that have just proven to be our best guys. Um, and again, it just comes down to conversation, letting them know that next day when they're pissed and they
mm,
just don't want to, they're mad at me, and it's like, hey, this is why, this is what I was thinking. This is the role you would have been in last night, but we just didn't get to that point. So I know you're frustrated, all these things. I said, but you got to keep working. We're going to rely on you. You're going to be in this part. And sure enough, that day he got in that same role and he
mm.
got in there, he did his thing. I'm like, okay, do you understand now?
There you
Instead of
go.
me,
Yeah.
having the immaturity level, it's like, just please communicate with me. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me explain to you exactly what it is. If I don't have an answer for you, that's on me.
Mm.
But I always want to make sure these guys understand where we're coming from as a coaching staff. Just say, hey, this is what we're thinking. And the pitching, this is what we're going to do. This is where we see you. If you don't get in tonight, be ready to go tomorrow. And we'll probably be in this lesser role maybe earlier in the game. So
There's something great about that transparency of it all too, is that a lot of players love to deflect blame and put it on you guys because it's
of
easy
course,
to, and I'm pretty sure I've done it before in my career too at some point, where
yeah,
I'm like, oh, he just, he didn't tell me, or he didn't, it was all on him,
mm-hmm.
like it's his fault, whatever it is.
Yep,
But if you're fully transparent, especially if it's like to the point where you're like, yeah, no, we didn't even consider you for this or whatever it is. That's just a random scenario,
sure,
but when you can allow a player to realize that it's always on them, like for you to say like, no, 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 I don't just give you trust. Like you've got to earn it. You've got to
mm-hmm.
you're working for that trust.
Sure,
You know, like if you're a guy that's not playing, like even if you're not getting used like at all, it's like, okay, that's letting you know you got to earn it. Like you got to do something to earn that trust. That like,
mm-hmm.
okay, you know what? We get in this scenario. Maybe I will go to this guy. Maybe I will, because he did this. He earned it. Like goes a long way for you guys. I would imagine. I guess I'm assuming, but I would imagine.
No doubt about it. I mean, for us, it's the work ethic. I'm watching
Yeah.
guys. I'm watching attitudes. I'm watching how they react. I want to see the hunger. I want guys to want to go out and fight. And at the end of the day, if you're not in, there's a reason. And if you don't know that reason, then better come ask me, because I'll be very honest with you. It's not.
Yeah.
I guarantee it's not stuff. I guarantee it's not stuff. It's either execution or the maturity level, or you just aren't ready to be put in that position yet.
Mm.
So.
I anytime I think about like the word stuff, and I think about uh this is the biggest one. It's vertical break. Everyone loves to talk about vertical break now. And I'm like, okay, if I can throw a four seam with like 14 vertical break versus like 18 vertical break, how much better of a pitch is that? Just if we're going off vertical break, how
Uh-huh.
much better of the pitch is that? It's like, oh, well, it's this much better. Like, oh, clearly you'd rather have the 18 or something like that. It's like, yeah, but what if for example, what if the 18 is like coming straight from over the top and it's flat looking, it's like
Mm-hmm.
steep, therefore the VAA, right? Like it negates
Yep.
the vert, right?
That's right.
Versus Kimbrel, where it's like
Uh-huh.
right here, it's like, and it's like got a little less vert, but the angle, it's like, whoa.
Deception.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it's like
deception.
so much harder to hit. It's like, why are we focusing so much on like the broad picture of like, oh, my IVB and my horizontal break is this? It's like, yeah, but how does it look? Does it look like that? Maybe, maybe not.
Mm.
Also, I love this too because um well, I love this because I feel like I'm good at it, but I love the notion of like, you know, late movement versus like not so late movement. The when a pitch can move like in the last 5-10 feet, before
Mm-hmm.
getting to the catcher's mitt, it's like, where's that measured? Like, where's that? Does that come into play? Because doesn't TrackMan track it like at 10 feet or whatever? And it's like, maybe things change mid ball flight too.
Mhm.
We've seen that. You see spin axes change mid ball flight, like
All the
happens
time.
all the time. Like
All the time.
you see some really crazy pitches do that, where you're
I
like,
do was amazing. I had a AAA a couple years ago with the Reds
yeah,
coaching, and we had an 8-year major league veteran with us. Fantastic young man, father, kids, the whole deal.
okay,
And his profiles would come back after games. Stuff plus. I'm looking at him at like his fastball is a 72. Well, 100 is major league average. I'm like, 72. I said, interesting, because I just saw him absolutely carve up that lineup for 2 innings, came back the next night, did the same thing. I said, again, you can get so caught up on these metrics that if you don't understand where the real angle is and deception that's being created, it's like there's not a whole lot of value to these pitches, because there's so much more in terms of what the hitter sees and how they react. It could be a little funkiness to the delivery, regardless of what the pitch metric is. That's what the hitter can't pick up, is because of the deception.
yeah.
And this guy's an 8-year major leaguer, and he's just carving AAA guys up, and like, oh, well, here's this. And I'm like, I don't care what you say. This guy's filthy. Yeah. If just come, please. Because I've seen a guy with 125 pitch plus that's rated off the charts, and he's just getting turned around left and right. I'm like, where does it play?
Yeah. It's easy.
So.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's easy to see versus it's tough to see. I mean, that it's so funny. Like, and if you really want to rely on it heavily, you can say, okay, it's 72 stuff plus whatever. All right, maybe it won't be my out pitch, sure. But if I can get to my out pitches at like a very successful clip by using that fastball, it's not really a stuff, like, because maybe the stuff plus 72, but the value is
That's value. That's
exponentially. Yeah, it's exponentially
value.
higher.
Yes, because like it wasn't like he's throwing 86. He was throwing 91, 92, and it was rated at 72. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. You can't tell me otherwise, because you can't say that doesn't have value when I just watch him wax dudes. They have no shot. So
yeah, I do understand though what's the word? The attraction towards striking guys out. I do understand that. Because it's a ball it's an out where the ball's not in play. Great.
Yep.
It rules out errors.
Yep. There's no damage. There's no damage to be done.
I do get that, but
no doubt.
But it does seem a little bit unsustainable, at least for like the masses of college baseball, professional baseball, minor league and major league. How many major league teams have a starter where his K per 9 is like over 9, where he's getting at least a strikeout per inning? I feel like there's not that many.
No.
Where especially the ones that are staying healthy for a whole season. It's like,
it's
how much can we rely on this?
Yeah, there aren't the big strikeout guys. I mean,
it's tough though, because there are those few where, and this goes back to the philosophy of shooting for the stars and aiming on the moon. Like, you want to be a big leaguer, like you got to strive for that. It's like, okay, once you get to the bigs, it's like, do you want to be the guy that's punching everybody out, or like the guy who's like, right? So I get that too, where it's like, yeah, you're aiming to get that, but in terms of what will win, is that going to be the sustainable approach? It's tough. That's so tough, though.
Yeah, that's where it's.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
I don't know. I think to each his own. I think everyone's going to be different, and you have those guys that just punch dudes out. That's who they are, and again, it's what do you have, what you're capable of doing, and simplifying those processes. And if you're a strikeout guy because you have just nasty stuff, and again, how many guys actually do that? Very few guys in the world can do that, and very few guys in Major League Baseball can do that. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting.
I think the point. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say now you get some relievers with just some unbelievable stuff now.
yeah.
It's just like, oh my gosh, you're throwing 91-mile-an-hour sliders that with 14 inches of horizontal break is just like wipe out. And it's like, with depth to it. I'm like, what are you gonna do? How do you number one, you're not gonna see spin. It's so hard.
Oh my gosh.
bottom just drops out. It's like, what do? You just guess.
Yeah, at that level, yeah, I'd imagine that is kind of what it is, right? I love the
Yeah.
inception of the fork, like or just like split changes,
Mhm.
like especially this change. Like that's a
Yeah.
crazy change of when I see
Mhm.
I see that grip. I love how that's actually coming into play. Have you been teaching any of your players like to split their changes or anything like that? Because I know like teams like to kind of see if guys can do that because of
Yeah.
what the pitch is showing at the major league level.
Yeah, I think for the most part, changeup was my pitch. I threw two actually, but
Oh,
I threw two. Yeah, I threw a straight change at about 80 to 82, and then I threw a
hmm,
palm ball, which is about 70, 72. So
okay,
just speed differentials. But
yeah.
for my guys here, a real simple grip I was taught, gosh, I don't even know when it was. It had been early in pro ball, maybe here at SC, but it's just making sure that your wrist is going up and down, not trying to do this. And simply it was where the thumb placement is. If we get the thumb underneath the middle of the ball, your wrist will do this. When the guys circle it and do this, thumbs on side of the ball, you'll start early pronation. So if you stay underneath the ball, you can still circle it, but now then you can manipulate these fingers here to open the ball up. You can add and subtract. And that's where I learned later in my career of how to add and subtract on a straight change, add and subtract on the palm ball I was throwing,
Mm,
just into righties, especially where I can back foot them
mm.
and then throw one just for a strike. So strike to strike, then from strike to ball. And it's just like, so now here it's like, well, when our wrist is doing this with the thumb underneath the ball, it makes it a lot easier. Now guys can just throw it with that fastball mentality. And
Hmm.
and like I tell them, I said, we are sellers of hand speed. That's what we're gonna be masters of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So again, that's
Absolutely.
a whole nother philosophical lecture I'll have in collaboration with those guys and just an open forum, just talk about it. But
Yeah.
we get to that point, we'll be in a good spot.
I feel like when I ask hitting coaches on here about like what the most difficult pitcher to face is, they're almost always going to bring up the fact that the guy has like, um, you know, not only can he throw multiple pitches for strikes, but he probably mixes in a changeup here and there. He mixes. Maybe he has a
Uh,
good slider, sure, but if he can be fastball, slider, and changeup, it's like, shoot, we got our work cut out for us because they're almost giving in to the fact that it's like, yeah, we're not going to beat him on his good changeup if he has a good changeup. Like you're not going to try and beat a guy with a good
mm-hmm.
changeup. You're not going to try and beat him on that pitch. You can try and beat him on the fastball. So you're going to just accept the fact that you're going to swing and miss at those changeups or
Yep.
swing and miss at those sliders. So it's like if they're giving that to you, take advantage of that.
Well, that's the thing. And I try to explain to my guys, I'm like, gentlemen, if you understand what the hitter's saying, any pitch that comes inside to a hitter, it's a fastball, right? It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be late to it. They're going to turn on it and get their hands through. But if you throw a changeup on the inner half, 8 to 10 miles an hour off with a little different spin, just a little bit, what are hitters going to do? Just think about that. Just what the bat angle is going to be, and even trying to keep it fair. So we're talking middle third in. How are you supposed to keep that ball fair?
Yeah.
Because you think it's a fastball. You sell it as a fastball. Now it's 8 to 10 off.
Yeah.
It's like, fellas, we're talking free strikes. Now what that does is now they can't sit one pitch on the inner half.
Mm-hmm.
So now they become cognizant of that. Now what happens to the outer half? It opens that up.
Yeah.
Now allows this to work, makes this better, and it starts getting them thinking. I said, as soon as you get the hitters thinking, we got them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Making them respect, your ability to do one thing specifically and them having to think about that constantly during an at bat. I mean, that's a big win. That's a big win for sure.
If we can get them to change their approach, even it's like, oh, we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the teams too, where it feels like they have a very similar approach where they're like, okay, yeah, he does this one thing. Yeah, his fastball in this location isn't that great. Let's just try to do that. And like the first time through the order, you'll see that. You're like, okay, like they're all taking fastball in. All of them. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing here? Like, you're all trying to get fastball outer half. All right, pretty easy. That's pretty easy to game plan against. Like sure.
Like you said earlier, they'll tell you. They're gonna tell you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. I feel like pitching, like the world of pitching, but just kind of the general like direction that things are going in with like college baseball pitching. I feel like it's in a good place right now, and like the not only the inception of bringing in a lot of technology, but the ability for coaches like you to be able to interpret that stuff and
Sure.
then also know when to use it and when not to use it. I feel like that's becoming, it's showing a lot more. You're seeing a lot more sophistication behind pitchers
Mhm.
these days. Like there's a lot more pitching, and
Yeah.
like you said, it's kind of going back more toward that pitchability thing where it's like, all right, we're not just rolling guys out there with the grossest stuff now. And I feel like when you see that at the college level, like you're just rolling out the guys with the grossest stuff, it's like, it doesn't really work all that often,
Yeah.
you know?
And I think that's what's interesting. Obviously Skeens went 1-1, but you look at him. I mean, this dude just doesn't power by you. I mean, he pitches and he
Yeah,
throws
yeah, yeah.
changeup. He throws a good slider, obviously, and a power fastball. But it's like he's not like he's just chucking. No, he's actually throwing the zones. He's pitching. He's got a good
Yeah.
changeup. It's like, man, he's gonna roll through the minor leagues. He's gonna be a major leaguer for a long time as long as he stays healthy
Hmm.
because he's a pitcher with
Yeah.
ridiculous stuff. And again, that's one guy in the world with that
Uh-huh.
size and that kind of ability. Good for him.
Yeah. I don't know if you've watched any of his video when they compare how he faces righties and lefties and how he moves on the mound. Have you
Oh, I
seen that at
haven't.
all?
No, I haven't.
I forget because I think someone was saying that he actually does it kind of backwards. I'm trying to remember if he goes first base side for righties, and he might be doing that. He might be going first base side for righties and first and third base side for lefties, where I think he's trying to like
Creating
really
angles.
open up the plate, I guess. Yeah, and like
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if he's a righty, he's a righty facing right. So if you get that left side, first base side, it's going to open up that angle that runs into righties.
yeah, he's just opening up big time, and then he's doing the same thing to lefties, where he's just a lot of fastballs in, I think. And but
Mhm.
even if he goes away, it's like it's still 100, and he's all the way out there, and it feels like it's way out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are more people not doing this? I didn't think about this
Yeah.
before seeing that. I was like, oh, well, I guess I thought about moving around on the mound, but I didn't think about, like, oh, yeah, against righties, I'll do this, and lefties, I'll do this.
Yeah.
I feel like people should actually do that. Well, not should, but they could. They might be able to increase their like stuff or whatever, be more
Sure.
effective, I guess is the word with that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I look at that and I'm like, maybe I'll try
Pretty
that.
savvy. That's
Yeah,
pretty savvy.
maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's got to work too. Like because there's pretty obvious ways in which you can do that the wrong way and it just like won't work.
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to think of an example right now, but I don't know. Anything to like, yeah, anything like you're saying to make the angle easier to interpret. It's like, yeah, you don't want to do that, obviously.
I mean,
But
you're really just you're creating lanes. Whatever lane works
yeah.
best for you to opens up your vision, it makes you more comfortable, then
Mm,
roll with it.
yeah. But it is tough though, I would imagine, for a guy to have multiple. He I guess has figured that out, which is impressive. I don't know if
One
he
guy in the world that does it. So with that kind
yeah,
of stuff, good for him.
yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I don't see really anyone else doing that either, but maybe we will. Maybe we will in the
Maybe.
future. I don't know, but yeah, maybe. That's so funny you brought up Skeens. Yeah, because like you brought up the fact that yeah he's a pitcher. One got good stuff. Two, but look at his fastball and it's like yeah if it wasn't 100 like people wouldn't go that crazy over for it honestly. Like a lot of the time, a lot of the
Mhm.
time. But like his changeup, I actually love his changeup.
Yep.
Like metrically, it's like okay yeah,
I think he loves it
metrically
too. He loves it too.
yes
He's tons of
yes.
confidence in it.
Yeah, well, oh god, he's got supreme confidence. That's crazy. Yeah, guy with that kind of confidence on that, it's like yeah, yeah. But I mean, he's a case study in itself when it comes to college baseball.
Hmm.
Um, just because I don't even know what his usage was on his fastball. I don't know how much he used it really because I feel
Yeah,
like he
I don't
still
know.
mixed it a lot. I feel like he still was
From
able
the
to
things I've
mix it.
seen, yeah, even his little pro ball clips. I mean, looks like he's throwing that changeup pretty well. Didn't see a whole lot of slider stuff yet, but um, I think he has a good feel for who he is. And again, if he's throwing that changeup in on righties, I mean, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just. I mean, that thing's like mid upper 80s too, right?
Hmm.
It's like
It's
a
got depth. It's got horizontal. I mean,
yeah.
it profiles well. He's doing
It
great.
which is funny too because him being a more of an East West guy, it
Hmm.
it kind of begs the question like, okay, do you have to be an elite IVB guy to be successful? It's like no. Clearly not. So can't push everyone to be a super verty guy. Like not everyone has to have a four seam and be super verty. It's
Like the new term of tunneling. All I know is tunneling
mm,
is it's deception. You
yeah,
come
yeah.
out the same slot with all 3 or 4 of your pitches. It gets there and gets to play. Like you said earlier, it does its thing. It's deception.
Mm-hmm.
It's an efficient delivery. It's what it is.
Yeah, I guess tunneling is the deception of the ball. Whereas like deception, when people hear deception, they might think the body, like hiding the ball physically. But it's like the true good deception is the ball, is the tunneling of the ball.
That's right.
Oh, that's tough though. I feel like that is got to be one of the tougher things to do in the developmental side, right? I mean that can't be an easy thing to to
It,
to accomplish great tunneling.
well, I think it comes down to delivery. If you get on time with your hand through from your lower
Mm,
feet all the way up to your hand, if you're on time, you can come out of the same slot on every pitch. Now, again, we get to exactly what your profiles are, wrist and fingers and things like that, exactly what you are. Then you develop your arsenal, so to speak. And
yeah,
like fastball will mirror your breaking ball.
right.
Your fastball is 1 o'clock, your curveball will be at 7.
Mm-hmm.
And that slider will have, a little shorter, sharper tilt, and that changeup's gonna be an hour later, and it's just gonna be that's who you are.
Yeah.
Don't try to manipulate things because that's when you lack execution, you probably lack control, and then most likely you're gonna get hurt.
And then the fun part is when it looks like you're supposed to be a 1-7 guy and maybe even it spins that way. But instead of moving 1-7 or whatever it is, it goes 1-2. Oh, it
Yeah.
goes and you're like, whoa, okay. It's
Yeah.
supposed to look like
That's
that.
right.
It looked
That's
like that
right.
and spun like that. But come on, now it's moving the other way. It's like, whoa, come on now. Like that, I don't even know if you can train for that, honestly.
No, I mean, again, everyone's different, but again, the
Yeah.
best pitch in baseball is the backup slider.
Oh yeah. No one's
Can't hit it.
expecting that. No one's
The,
expecting
the,
that.
the exact opposite of what it's supposed to do.
Oh my god, I love that though. I love watching that. That's like one of my favorite things. And you see that, you're like, yep. He did not mean to do that. No chance.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so funny. Okay, it actually is like 11, so I didn't want to keep you too much longer. I did want to ask you, about
Yeah.
yourself a little bit more, so we can keep it a little bit quicker if need
Sure.
be. But I mean, your playing career speaks for itself. We don't even have to dive into that. But was there a transition period between when you were playing and when you were coaching, or was that a
Um,
quick transition because you just
it's
knew
pretty
you wanted to
quick.
go?
Actually, I was getting ready to go back to
Okay.
Venezuela and
Hmm.
to play winter ball, and the opportunity at University of San Francisco came up, and so I took that opportunity. And I was 36 at the time, and I was like, well,
Hmm.
body's not doing so well, and I wasn't recovering very well. So maybe this is a great opportunity, and to start my coaching career. Previous to that, I've done a ton of personal training in my off seasons. I started my own little business down in South Orange County, and
Hmm.
that's how I kind of fell in love with coaching. And so I just carried that into the college game for a couple of years, and then went off to the Reds, and I was with the Reds for 7 years, and until I got this
Yeah.
job last July. So it I love it. I love just being on the field. I love creating those relationships with the players and the coaching staffs, and um, it's baseball. I mean, you get to compete.
Yeah.
It's just different. But I'm in every pitch with every guy, and just really, I just love seeing that light bulb turn on their head, and they go, oh, okay, now I understand what you're talking about. So
Hmm.
those are the rewards for me that I kind of just really embrace. But for the most part, I give my wife and my 4 children a ton of credit on this. They've been with me. They've traveled. They've done everything. My wife homeschools my children, and throughout my playing and coaching career,
Yeah.
and they are succeeding so much. I mean, my oldest son just got into USC, and he did dual enrollment, and he has 3 AAs, a couple certificates, and out of high school, he graduated college. He's got his A's before he graduated high school. So, and my daughter's starting high
Jeez.
school now, and she's to be on the same path. And my wife has her master's here at SC, and
Hmm.
my 2 youngest boys, they're brilliant. So it's just that's who I am. Trying to be the best husband and father I can be, and just love this game, and I love coaching. So it's me.
If you could go back in time to
Mhm.
your first year coaching self and give him some advice, what would that be?
Um,
I know it's kind of a tough one, honestly.
no, it's good. I'm just trying to phrase this the right way. I would say,
Okay.
um, just observe a little bit more, listen a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to fix everything. Establish those relationships a little bit better before you start going into it.
Mm.
I thought my intent was good. I just thought at points I went a little too fast for the player.
Mm.
I wanted to help them out so bad, so fast that it's like, let's just let them kind of coach you.
Mm.
So that's kind of where I've gone, okay, teach me about you. Teach me. And so now I
Mm.
can go, okay, now I know who you are. Now I know my approach to you. So
Mm. You got to let it marinate a little.
you got to. You got to. And a lot of times, yeah, there's gonna be players that are resistant to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just let them kind of stew in it and let them kind of do it. Because when they need you, they'll come to you.
Yeah.
You're there for them, you know that. But
Yeah.
if you really need help, they'll come to you.
Some guys are 3-day, marinate. Some guys,
Yeah,
you need that, whatever it is, like 40-day dry age kind of stuff.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to really let it sit. That's
Yep.
funny. I like that though. I like that. Okay, let's talk about USC real briefly in terms of just, you know, an aspect of USC, the school. So not the program, but the school that you really like about it that most people may not know. And I know plenty about it. I know you know plenty
Sure.
about it, but the common high school player might not know about the school.
Yeah. We're so rich in tradition. I think from the academic standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
our business school is number, I think, 6 or 7 in the nation. We have number one cinema school in the nation, dentistry number one, communications number one.
Mm.
We have every resource possible for all of our student athletes. We have 85 subject specific tutors for our players whenever they need it.
Mm.
It's like, man, this is pretty great. Obviously, as a student athlete here, you have some privileges in terms of food and things like that, which are fantastic. We're
Mm-hmm.
moving a lot of facilities here. Um, it's just so rich in tradition, legacy of former athletes that have come through here. And we call it kind of like our little oasis here in downtown LA. I mean, with the revival of LA Live by the I don't know what it's called. It was Staples Center. I don't know what it's called now. The
Oh, crypto arena.
Crypto Arena.
Yeah.
All the new hotels, and it's a mile and a half here, and it's all cleaned up. It's a far cry from what it was 25 years ago when I was here.
Mm-hmm.
Our new USC Village, it's kind of like you're in an Italian plaza with all the fountains and eateries and Trader
Oh
Joe's,
yeah.
and got housing above it for all the students.
Mm-hmm.
It's a special place. It's our little oasis, and it's an unbelievably beautiful, well manicured, just campus. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I
mean,
will say,
huh?
our grounds crew is by far number one in the nation.
You know what? Because I was going to ask about your like a favorite thing that most people wouldn't know about your program.
Ooh.
I was actually expecting you to say that about your because I know about your grounds crew.
Man, these guys crank, and they are unbelievable. This is their baby, and
Yeah.
I played a lot of big league parks, a lot of college parks, and this is by far the best playing surface. I can't say by far. I mean, LA, fantastic Dodger Stadium. There's some
Oh man, yeah.
beautiful major league stadiums, but this, in terms of college, no one can stand up to this.
Mm-hmm.
This surface, how they do this, it's manicured by hand on a daily basis, and they are very prideful in their work. And like I said, this is their baby, and they do an amazing job.
I will say there is nothing like a good natural field. And so many teams have turf fields now. I mean, I have Tulane turf field. I mean, it makes sense for the weather, but
Sure, absolutely.
but a nice natural field. Oh.
It looks fake. Honestly, we
I
have
know.
recruits out. They come out there. Is this real? I'm like, yeah. Like, no way. Like,
Yeah.
As fake as it looks, it is real. Feel it. And parents are like, unbelievable, and it really is unbelievable. And
Yeah.
with these guys, they work their tails off, and they're amazing people, and they do a fantastic job.
I hope your players know that too. I mean, you got to appreciate that kind of stuff.
I tell them every day, you guys know how good you have it.
Yeah, no, literally. Oh my God.
Wait till you get those minor league fields, boys. Just wait.
You took the words out of my mouth. I mean, yeah. Okay, last question. Last question. This is about the recruiting process, and I know you've been on the recruiting trails before, so I love asking every coach about a story they might have that kind of just illustrates what the role is and what that experience is like going on the road and watching players. I mean,
Mhm.
I've heard plenty of stories, but I want to hear, one from you that kind of again illustrates just what that role is like.
Yeah, I think one story kind of just sticks out because recruiting, it's just a tough business. I mean, you're competing against other schools, friends of yours, and all these
Hmm.
things. I think once was when it was my first fall at University of San Francisco, and I went to watch this young man pitch. His name is Aide Rincon. He's
Ooh.
at yeah, and he's from Colombia.
Hmm.
He's here in the States, just got here, and he can really pitch. And I'm like, man, am I about to do this right now? I said, I'm about to do this. So we're able to talk to him. I
Hmm.
start busting out my Venezuelan Spanish to him.
No.
And he's like, he kind of looked at me. I'm like, I kind of gave him that face.
Yeah, yeah.
He started smiling. I'm like, okay, hook set. Now let's get into it. So I'm baseball Spanish. I'm efficient enough
Hmm.
to get through sentences and relate to players and do that. So I think that was probably, and we ended up landing him, and he's a great young man. I didn't stay there long enough, but
Hmm.
I think that was probably like, this was the lefty that I need to get. And law schools were after him. And I want to think that my my Spanish
Yeah.
uh helped me out a little bit. So yeah,
Wow.
pretty cool.
That's a tool that not a lot of guys have.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I think that's what really helped me out in pro ball too. Because
Hmm.
there's an influx of a lot of Latin players. As soon as they start hearing me speak Spanish to them, they kind of go, "Whoa, okay, now we can relate." Talking about my time when I played in winter ball and all those years, like, and some guys, it was kind of crazy because they actually saw me pitch in winter ball. Some of my
Hmm.
players, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" So it's kind of a neat little link, that
Yeah.
we have, just to kind of relate to each other. And hey, I know where you're from. I've been to that town, and
Mm.
I know what your life has been like. I get you. I got you.
Yeah, that does go a long way, especially because they're trying to learn English too.
That's right.
So
That's
it's
right.
it's two-way street. You can help each other out.
That's why I tell a lot of the guys that, hey, I'm gonna speak Spanish to you. You speak English to me. That's how we're gonna
Mm,
do this. They're like, okay. So
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, for all those college baseball players out there, you're trying to go professional. Take Spanish. I took French. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
take Spanish.
yeah.
It'll go a
It'll
long
help
way.
you. I mean, yeah, in pro baseball and for the rest of your life, coaching and business, whatever it is, it's
Yeah.
important. It's great to be able to relate to people.
Yeah.
Communication's huge.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in baseball. Shoot, I think I guess that's it. That's
Cool.
I guess that was my last question. Yeah, that was my last question. But this has been awesome, Seth. I mean, shoot, we we got after it. I think that was great.
Well, I appreciate no, I appreciate everything. I can talk baseball all the time.
Yeah.
I love slinging some information around, talking, and um, getting. I mean, I'm a coach. I learn every day, and just continue to learn, so you help these young men. So
Amen. I think that should be the closing words right there. Just keep learning. That's
that's
it.
it.
Player, coach, doesn't matter. You're
Doesn't
always
matter.
learning.
Be hungry to learn.
Love that. Well, Seth, thank you for coming on. Um, that'll be the last thing I say. And I do want to talk to you really briefly after we sign off.
Yeah.
But that is going to do it for this episode. And we will see you next week on Player to
Cool.
Prospect.
Cool. Thanks, Jack.